Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of brilliant racing action in the one and only UK Sim Racing Multiclass League Season 3 as sponsored by the virtual racing score VRS, and we are here today to take a look back at all the racing action from round 6 of the championship campaign, brought to you from the Californian circuit of Laguna Seca. Well, 9 in 4 is the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca in reference to its title sponsorship. It is a circuit that only spans 2.23 miles, but is absolutely brilliant with corners, 11 in total. Known best for its very narrow nature and its winding nature as our drivers will wind their way on around the local hillside scenery. This Californian circuit in the US of A is perhaps best known, of course, for its Corkscrew chicane. An 18-metre plummet between its starting apex and its end apex, and one that is completely blind in the run-up to the braking zone for the chicane, and on exit as well, it's just as blind as it was on entry. But it's not just about the Corkscrew, but it's about all 11 corners and all the short straights in amongst the groupings, and with that, of course, it means that it's an absolutely brilliant circuit for racing action, and that's just if you've got a single class. But here today, of course, we've got 3 different car classes all looking to contest the circuit. It's going to be tight, it's going to be tense, and it's going to be an absolute corker of a round as we welcome you to this live broadcast from circuit side. Now, we should point out this broadcast is live and is available, of course, on 2 media platforms for your viewing pleasure, the 2 official UK Sim Racing media platforms, one of which you could be tuning in via is on YouTube at youtube.com and search for UK Sim Racing, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via YouTube. Of course, we do have the alternative. If you're more of a Twitch person, you can tune in via twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. But regardless of what platform you're tuning in from, whether it be YouTube or Twitch, you are tuning in to a post-round broadcast. What does that mean? Well, the racing action itself is not actually live. It occurred as of yesterday evening on what was Sunday the 11th of May 2025, but we're bringing it to you this evening on Monday the 12th of May 2025 as if it were live. Here in the commentary booth, we do not know what happens over the course of the practice session that's coming to a close at the moment on screen, or alternatively the upcoming qualifying session or the race of the day, and that means it's going to be as raw and as close as possible to the raw live viewing experience for you guys and girls tuning at home. And as always, we do ask, if you are in the chat and you do happen to know what has happened over the course of this round of racing, we ask that you avoid any potential spoilers, not just for us here in the commentary booth, but all the guys and girls who tune along at home, and looking forward to seeing how it all unfolds as we roll away towards the end of the second third of the season, because of course there are 9 rounds of racing, and we are in round number 6. In the commentary booth, you have myself, Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Brit in the Spit, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action as it unfolds over the course of this entire season, and what a season it has been so far. But let's give you a quick recap of the season so far and what we've still got lying in wait. Because now we're into round number 6, and with it being midway through May, we're here at the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca for our second American circuit. We've got 2 more American circuits to go, because in a week's time we'll be making our way to the Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta for its round number 7 on the 18th of May. But before all of that, of course, we've had plenty of rounds to uncover who is proven to be the master or mistress of what is our different classes of car. In round number 1, at a rather challenging Autodromo International do Algarve, or the Algarve circuit, or the Portugal circuit, on the Portimao circuit, I should say, the Portuguese circuit, of which on the 30th of March our drivers went to. It was wet, it was windy, it was a challenging round of racing, but it looked so in the front of the field in the GTP cars, and it was anybody's game, with Thomas Cope taking away the victory there, albeit Patrik Thomsen putting on a brilliant showing. And further down the running order, we did see some absolutely brilliant strategy from Jack Barker in what was the GT3 PRO class, albeit Sight Anthony coming home victorious. In round number 2 at the Fuji International Speedway, it was the LMP2s that really stole the show at the front of the field, with a batting absolutely intense, a very wet and inclement Japanese circuit on the 6th of April. And in round number 3 at the Long Beach Street circuit, it was all bets were off with regards to how tight it was around there, but all the drivers putting on an absolutely fantastic showing in the California Street circuit on the 13th of April. On the 20th of April, we were in Italy for the Autodromo International Enzo Edino Ferrari, and there we got to see it. The first of our 2 Italian circuits was an absolute runaway victory from James Ibram in the LMP2 class, and also Patrik Thomsen making it what was an absolutely brilliant trio of victories back-to-back in the GTP class. And after our mid-season break, we returned last time out on the 4th of May for our second of our 2 Italian circuit visits for this season. And in round number 5 was the Autodromo Nacional Monza that played host, and well, there the story really was a whole medley of stories all embroiled together. In the GTP class, it was none other than was Austin William Campbell securing his first win of the season at the Monza circuit in the absence of Patrik Thomsen, but still he had a lot of pressure on him, none more so than from his teammate and rival John Williams. In the LMP2 class, we did see mixed fortunes for many, and James Ibram's run of victories coming to a close, with Øystein Herfjord making his way back to the top of the podium. podium. And the GT3 categories won the Pro class. It was Kasper Brøckner who took his second win of the season, with Jack Barker's absolute brilliance on strategy once again bringing him home second place. He's become Mr. Second Place this season, but he's yet to score a win. And meanwhile, in was the GT3 AM class. Well, it was superb recovery drives from both James Foster and Matt Edmondson, and James Foster taking up the championship lead, but Matt Edmondson on the rise once again. Then again, we also did see some rather defiant performances from the likes of Satinder Deensa, who'll be chasing his first win as well, and could he achieve it today? As we come into today then, let's talk a little bit more about our circuit. Well, it's located in Monterey County, between what is the towns of Monterey and Salinas. It's in its own postcode, this circuit, and in what is Monterey County of the US state of California. It's a circuit that draws an absolute pilgrimage of spectators and drivers year in, year out, and well, whilst it's considered to be a bit of a Dust Bowl circuit because it is right in the middle of the American desert, it also does see grass in the winter and spring seasons. But regardless of what season you're racing at for the full course of the WeatherTech Racetrack Laguna Seca, one thing is for certain as we look to our circuit image, and thank you to iRacing.com for their brilliant track map that comes with a fantastic simulator. It is a circuit like no other when it brings together an absolutely brilliant combination of corners, because our drives roll the way around here where two-dimensional image does not quite do it justice given how much elevation change there is over the course of the lap, with the lowest point of the circuit being at the Andretti hairpin at turn number 2. But to get there, they've got to make their way down the start-finish straight, with its kinks at turn 1, where they go hard on the braking zones, while the low-speed corners at turn number 2. A double left-hand apex, which will eject our drives out into the double right of turns 3 and 4, which is a very late apex and winding corner at turn number 3, and a much more open exit at turn number 4, but our drivers will need to be careful of off-tracks there. Then into turn number 5, it will all be about abusing the camber as our drivers start to make their way uphill into the left-hander, and on the exit there, they'll then head into turn number 6, a very sharp left-hand corner with depression towards the apex curb, but get it right on the carry all the speed up the Rahul straight to the highest point of the circuit, and that's where they'll find the kink of 7, which sets them up for the braking zone for the Corkscrew at turn number 8. Down the hill they'll roar, and as they drop their way through the 18-metre plunge, they'll need to get themselves over to the right-hand side of the circuit for the fast left-hander rainy curve, where it's all off camber and downhill through turn number 9, even more downhill through turn number 10, but there's plenty of camber in the road on the penultimate corner, and then it's flat out to the hairpin at turn number 11 to complete lap and do it all over again. But as we come into the racing tonight, well, quick reminder of the rules before we do go racing, because of course we do need some rules. And well, setup wise, it's an open setup series with fuel loads restricted based on car class as follows. And as we can see, the restrictions being 80% to the GTP class, 100% for the LMP2s with their thirsty V8 machinery, and the GT3s will take 60%. Qualifying, well, the grid will be set based on a closed qualifying format, which drives home 4 flying laps available, plus of course their out lap. And in terms of the race, where it will commence via a double foul rolling start, with each car class separated by roughly 5 to 10 seconds, as managed by the class's pole sitter. Albeit we should point out that's car class, so therefore the GT3s, whether they be pros or amps, they all start together. The race shall start for all classes when the GTP class is shown the green flag. There is one mandatory pit stop for fuel. Changing tyres is entirely optional and up to our drivers, but they can remember the fact they will be changing tyres at the same time they do put the fuel in the car. Each driver has one fast repair available, and the only other reason we may see a driver come into the pit lane will be if they've been a little bit naughty and picked up some instant points. At 20, they'll be picking up a drive-through penalty for their misdemeanours. But all race shooting, meanwhile, shall be conducted post-race. Now, just a reminder, much like all the way through the season, and it's continuing all the way to the end of the season, we are going to be doing it in collaboration, and thank you to our title sponsor VRS, or the Virtual Racing School. We will be doing a giveaway today on this broadcast for what will be VRS competitive subscriptions to our competitors and to you, our viewers, albeit we should point out only on YouTube, unfortunately, due to some limitations. Now, for this round, our giveaways are as follows. There'll be one 3-month subscription available to any driver in the LMP2 class who finishes this round, and for those in the other 3 classes, well, they'll be entered into a draw for a 2-month subscription so long as they finish this round. That's across the GTP, the GT3 PRO and GT3 AM classes. And meanwhile, we've also got a 1-month subscription up for grabs, and that is in the YouTube chat there. All you've got to do, don't do it quite yet because we haven't quite enabled the giveaway. In fact, we are going to enable it as of now, and our giveaway is active. And all you've got to do to be eligible for this 1-month subscription to the VRS school is you've simply got to type the letters VRS in the YouTube chat. As simple as that. Do so, and we'll do the draw at the end of today's racing before we do go to our post-round interviews with any of our volunteer drivers. That's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. We're all here for the racing, and let's head to the circuit side then and give you a run in with regards to our schedule for today. Somebody gets it very wrong into the barrier there, and I'm not quite sure who that was, but what I can see is in terms of our schedule for today, times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinate Time +1 at UTC +1, and well, we will be going into qualifying in just under what will be 4 minutes time, 10 minutes in duration, 4 flying laps for all of our drivers out there in that closed qualifying format, after which we'll then head to the grid for our one and only feature race, 60 minutes in duration, and due to get underway at 8 this evening. It's a relatively nice day here at the Laguna Seca circuit, 19 degrees centigrade track temperature, well, in fact ambient temperature I should say, track temperature meanwhile a much higher 34 degrees centigrade, but given the fact we're not quite in the summer season and you can see temperatures hit upwards of what will be 35 degrees centigrade plus, that thermometer absolutely going through the roof, and I can only imagine what that's going to be in Fahrenheit, given the fact that I do know many a Californian will be measuring things in Fahrenheit rather than Celsius, but either way as our drivers all get set and ready to go for today, well it is going to be a bit of a hot one out on the tarmac. Now as everybody gets ready to go, we do look to some other drivers who are making their way around, and none more so than Nathan Foster here in the Empire Motorsports machine, that being the Porsche 963, and as he comes on down there looking quite good so far in this final practice session. And you'll notice there the fact 9/10 off of the fastest man currently, Patrik Thomsen, who's back on the grid today after his absence from the last time out. Wasn't on the grid at Monza, but do keep in mind our drivers do get 2 drop scores available to them, so therefore they do have the option of missing 2 rounds due to personal circumstances, or they can of course invest in particular rounds and sacrifice others, albeit of course that comes with a bit of a gambit. If you can only make 7 of the 9 rounds, you've got to make those 7 rounds count because you're locking all your scores in. I mean, if you can make all 9 rounds, well, if you have 1 bad round, it's not too bad. Obviously, a bit of a bad breaking moment there for Nathan Foster, who takes his way all the way to the grass and gravel and then makes his way on back. He just about gets it turned around before he makes his way to the tyre barrier. And I can tell you those GTP machines, they do not have the best steering lock at low speed. It's where all the speed comes in, and that's where they become so pointy on turning. As we say hello there to Daz Sharples in the YouTube chat, it gives you a prime demonstration of how you can enter that YouTube giveaway. We do also look to Jarrett Lee, who makes his way around, and the man who made his debut last time out in the LMP2 class at what was the Laguna Seca, not the Laguna Seca circuit, and round number 5 was the Monza circuit there, as I've got Laguna Seca on the brain today. And I want to tell you one thing, he absolutely put in a brilliant demonstration of being able to get right into the thick of the fighting versus his peers in the LMP2 class and not wilting under any pressure whatsoever all the way through the evening. And we do look forward to seeing whether he can do more of that today, because he's currently the 3rd fastest LMP2 out there, and well, he is the best part of what is, I do believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, well, he's the best part of what is in fact, a second of the overall pole time for the LMP2s, and well, that pole time going to what is Helder Gonzalez at this time, albeit in this practice session, of course. And practice means one thing, meanwhile doing in anger is another thing, as we do bring up all the class classifications there. Our timing tower be designed to be a little bit sneaky and a little bit cheeky, but as he makes his way on through, he has got in front of him there what is the GT3 PRO machine, Sean Cranny-Swage, who's currently the 3rd fastest GT3 Pro, and the only 2 are faster than him are Cy Anthony and Christian Maltrek. And well, he makes his way into the pit lane there to Sean Cranny-Swage, and was looking very good at Monza until a late error cost him what would have been a great run to 2nd place, and he was the man essentially to keep Kasper Brøckner, the other Ford Mustang GT3 in what is the GT3 Pro class, honest all the way through. But in the end, Brøckner just ran away with things, and the gap in the end really was a little bit humbling for the many of his rivals, albeit Sean Cranny-Swage will know that he did keep his rival all honest all the way through until a mistake of his own doing. Matt Edmondson here meanwhile making his way on around, and well, he's not the fastest GT3 AM driver out there, he's currently the 2nd fastest, because the fastest one is Steve Hughes in the Ford Mustang. He's currently in the pit lane, and it's good to see Steve Hughes back on the grid today, and we're looking at very fine and fit indeed in the American machine on its home soil. But I can imagine it's going to be a little bit of a personal pride one here today for this man. He's on home turf, it's at Interdinsa, a proud Californian I do believe, and he'll be getting ready to go for Tiki Simsport there as he gets himself ready to go, and only what is 2 tenths separating the top 3 in the GT3 AM class. You can imagine it's going to be close to pole position in that class, and well, conversely, I don't see what is James Foster on what is our gridding screens at the moment. Therefore, Foster might be missing this round, and hopefully he'll be back in a week's time for what will be a road Atlanta, and therefore it's going to become one of his drop scores, as we do see a very colourful machine in the hands of Daniel Payne making its way on through. But regardless of who you're cheering for, well, it's now time for all the drivers to get their heads and helmets down, because it's time for qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. Who's going to put it on pole? Let's find out. As we make our way into qualifying there, briefly going to a Be Right Back screen and then making our way back to the circuit, just in case for any reason our iRacing replay file decides to glitch and show us all of the qualifying times, the best qualifying times, before we even do see our drivers leave the pit lane. It does happen on rare occasions. We do take a little safety measure of screen, but we are back then and we are good to go for qualifying. So 10 minutes for flying laps plus an out lap. What can we expect here in qualifying is the big question that may be on the mind of many of you. Well, the short answer is it's going to be a very important qualifying session, because the problem you do have here at Laguna Seca is the fact that track position is so important and overtaking is brutally challenging. Now, it's not to say overtakes are impossible. You do have overtaking opportunities, particularly at the Andretti hairpin at turn number 2. Also the run all the way out to turn number 5, which we'll see Darren Sharples do as he makes his way all the way up there, albeit he'll be taking the racing line on his warm-up lap or his out lap, but turn number 5 is a viable overtaking opportunity. Turn 6 is a little bit of a gamble. You can go for moves into turn 6, which Sharples makes his way up to now, albeit the only problem here is the fact the circuit tapers very, very tight to the apex as you do turn on in. So it's one of those corners where you've got to be practically fully alongside, if not a nose ahead on the inside, before you get to the braking zone there for turn 6 to be eligible for the overtake. And of course, there's the run all the way up the right haul straight in towards the Corkscrew at turn number 8. Another overtaking spot there, but you've got to be brave under braking, particularly with the bump in the road, which our drivers will be getting used to as they make their way through the kink of 7. Down through 9, you can go 2 wide, you can even go 3 wide there, but the problem is it's off camber, so therefore turn 9 is not always advised. Turn number 10 as well, very tight to the entry point, and it's not as wide as it looks. And turn number 11 is the only other place you can look for moves. So really, to give you a quick summary, it is turns 2, 5, 8, and 11. That's going to be our prime overtaking spots for our drivers. But Patrik Thomsen makes his way on around for the Williams Sim Racing Academy team, and this will be his first lap going onto the board as he makes his way on through in the number 1 car. He really has been the man, when Patrik Thomsen has been the man, I should say. I think I've referred to him as Patrick Williams only moments ago. Williams is his racing team there, as he makes his way out to number 4 and up towards 5. Well, the Ferrari driver right now is all drive machine behind his hands. He's going to be absolutely looking to maximise every corner exit and try and carry the speed, albeit we have seen this has really been the machine to beat, and he's been the driver to beat all season, whether it's in dry, mixed or dedicated wet conditions. But can anybody get under his skin today? And the one driver who'll be looking to do it more than most is Austin William Campbell, who we do see here at the moment in the 905, the BMW M V8 Hybrid coming on down, but I think just taking a leisurely stroll down through the Corkscrew there, trying to get as much tyre temperature as possible and sacrifice his first flying lap to get a little bit more heat in the tyres and also burn a little bit of fuel out the car, and he'll go all in on what will be his second flying lap, to which we are going to jump on board with the 905 driver as he looks to try and charge around here and go for pole position. So as he exits the final corner, on we go, and the dashboard in the bottom right hand corner of your screen if you want to keep track with his speeds, but across the line he goes then towards what will be turns 1 and 2. So over the rise and down through the kink and over to the right side to put the brakes on immediately, braking 150 metres of corner apex trail, brake it down and goes way too deep immediately, and for Austin William Campbell it's over before it's really started in that first braking zone. So easy to do, and well, he'll bring himself back up to speed, and that's going to be an aborted lap. He's going to be absolutely fuming at himself for that one, for going straight on there, albeit you can imagine if he put any more brake in he would have most likely locked up and he would have gone even deeper and put the car into the barrier. So therefore he's played the better part of 2 bad hands, and as he makes his way on free, you can see they're weaving the car from side to side trying to get all the dirt off the tyres and get himself back up to speed. But as he does so then, we'll have other drivers making the way on around, including Nathan Anstis coming on down here in the GT3 PRO category. He's put 124.087 as his first lap in, but as you can see the best part of 2 seconds off of the provisional pole lap set into GT3 PRO by Sean Cranley Swash, 22.278. And then Kasper Brøckner says, well Sean, I know you're good in the Mustang, but I'm a little bit better, and he goes even faster by 300ths there. And well, could we see the 2 Mustang drivers lock horns here in the American machines on American soil? That would be a sight to see, no doubt about it, as we do say hello to Anstis Races there. Good evening to you, Nathan Anstis, and I hope you're doing well in at the YouTube chat. And well, as the drivers continue to make their way on around 4 minutes complete, we've still got plenty of time to go in this qualifying session. We've still got plenty of laps to be delivered in this qualifying session. There's no doubt Patrik Thomsen goes at provisional pole overall in the GTP category on a 114.624. as he heads into the braking zone for turns 1 and 2, and absolutely gets it glued under braking there as he makes one to his third flying lap, and well, making his way on around right now. It is very, very close to the edge of what is the circuit there for Patrik Thomsen as he comes through turn number 3. My good lord, the man is absolutely maximising those entry and exit curves. They're trying to make the circuit as wide as humanly possible. He even dared dips a tyre beyond them, and he'll be picking up an off track, and it will invalidate the lap. But Thomsen right now, when they say to be perfect, you've got to be precise. Oh, goodness me, there's a slight run wide there with the rear right tyre. He may get away with that one, albeit the track limits are normally very strict here at Laguna Seca, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's been an invalidated lap. But as he heads up the rise and into the braking zone here for the Corkscrew chicane, well, I can only imagine what it must be like on board in that Ferrari right now. It must be almost as if he's playing hot potato with the steering wheel in terms of how much he's juggling it and fighting with it as he comes down through turn number 9 and in towards turn 10. And you can see the quick direction change and reposition the car as soon as he exits the corner before he's even had a chance to really settle the car down. He's got the power on and pulling it from one side to the other of the circuit. Through the final corner he goes, and does Thomsen go even faster this time? Well, I believe he's going to do so. He has set the fastest first two subsectors, and it was 1:14.6. He's improved to 1:14.119, but we do have a cloud hanging over whether he did invalidate it coming out of turn number 5. But as Austin William Campbell crossed the line, well, after what was a miserable first flying lap, he's improved on the second flying lap, and he set a 1:14.878, but knows there's still more to go. And, well, as he does so, we see James Ibram coming down in towards the Andretti hairpin, and as he makes his way on through the double left hairpin, now in towards turn number 3 he goes, and we complete lap of board with the LMP2 leader. We'll make his way through the right-hander at turn number 3 there, that late apex and avoiding the sausage curb, opening up with turn number 4, turning the car in at what was the 50 meter board there, but fighting a lot of understeer as he made his way through the corner, carrying too much speed on entry, and now heading in towards turn number 5, braking at what was the 100 meter board all the way down to second gear as he gets the wheels spinning, powers his way out the corner, and now in towards turn number 6, and again, as quickly as he gets to the corner, he's got to get back on the brakes, in through there in third gear, dropping the gear just as he makes his way towards the apex curve. Now back up to 4th, shortly up into 5th gear. Will he be? No, he'll bounce off the limiter. In fact, he does go to 5th right at the peak as he comes on down now in first gear there through the chicane, and now over towards what will be at turn number 9, and down through the left-hander, rainy curve, bring the car over to the left-hand side for turn number 10, and braking it will be about 60 meters a quarter apex there, just dabbing the brakes on, getting the nose to flatten down, and in towards the hairpin he goes, braking at the 100 meter board there, riding over a little bit of the sausage curve, the big red curve there, running it all nice and out wide. You're allowed to do that, and Ibram heading towards the timeline, where he's currently a 3rd in the LMP2 class, but he sets provisional pole on a 15.675. That's 1.2 tenths faster than Helder Gonçalves this time, and well, Gonçalves has been a little bit of a ninja in this qualifying session in terms of how he snuck his way up through the LMP2 qualifying field, and well, the number 23 driver can always be guaranteed to give us a delight where it's out of the circuit in race or qualifying conditions, but he has set all of his available laps, so the best he will get is 2nd place in the LMP2 class. What about in the GT3s, meanwhile? Because it looks as though in GTP it's going to be Patrik Thomsen taken away by only 16 thousandths over Austin William Campbell. Well, in the GT3s, they've still got one lap available to them. Sean Cranny-Swash, well, it was Kasper Brøckner who managed to try and get back ahead earlier on, but Sean Cranny-Swash is the man who's flying out there right now, and was the Antsy Sports driver makes his way out of the penultimate quarter. Can he go even higher here? He has improved midway through the lap. He has set the fastest second sector of everybody, and he's also had a personal best in sector 4. It's a short run to the timing line. What's it going to be then for Cranny-Swash? He crosses the line, and it's going to not be an improvement. What about Christian Maltrek? Meanwhile, he's also on a fast one. He's currently 3rd, 1.5 tenths down. He sneaks to pole position on a 21.520. That's almost 2 tenths clear of Cranny-Swash. Can anybody else respond? Well, Kasper Brøckner's out there on the lap right now, but that's looking a bit slow coming out of turn number 3, albeit the camera probably not being that flattering. Jack Barker, meanwhile, he's on his final flying lap. He will have time to deliver it. Well, this GT3 Pro class is getting very close. In GT3 AM, well, here is Steve Hughes making his way on down through the corkscrew there. The camera almost giving me motion sickness in the cockpit there. I was trying to get an eye on where the angle was exactly. I think it was about a 45-degree angle, the camera lens. Well, as they make their way down through turn number 9 in towards turn number 10, Steve Hughes right now, not on the best of laps. He has not improved so far in the first 4 sectors. He's matched himself for the most part, as he heads in towards what will be the final quarter. Can he find a bit of improvement here to move up from what will be 3rd place at GT3 AM? And the answer is going to be, as he makes his way to the line, he'll be a 10th down to Tinder Dean sub before the end of this lap, and that is how he'll remain at the end of the lap, and he will not be improving any further as he comes across that timing line. James Ackland, meanwhile, he comes on through. He's not too happy about that and decides to park the car along the barriers there. A little bit of wall riding, and well, Simon Bamber makes his way on for a bit of a slide there under braking in towards the corkscrew, carrying so much momentum and speed that he's absolutely attacking it right now in the LMP2 machine. We'll look forward to seeing how far that lap's going to go towards the very end after a frustrating day at Monza. And well, as he comes on through, Christian Maltrek's crossed the timeline, and in the end has made his way to the pit lane rather than coming in across the timeline. Instead, he's triggered what is the pit line timeline instead. He thinks he's got it done for GT3 Pro pole, but what about Simon Bamber then? Will he be starting 10th in the LMP2 category? He will. He does improve by 3 tenths, but it's not enough, and that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, for the most part. Site Anti making his way on around here, and well, as we do see the Porsche 992 driver make his way on through, he is on what will be his final lap. Something tells me this lap may have been invalidated, given we've seen an early checkered flag before the 10-minute window is closed, but here he comes in through the final quarter, and Radzik Ghosh is also out there on his final GTP flying lap, and well, Site Anti comes to line. He is, of course, one of the big contenders in the GT3 Pro Championship, and well, stays in 3rd place there and does not improve. 2 tenths off of Maltrek's pole time, and what a surprise there for Maltrek to steal away GT3 Pro pole, and congratulations on his 1st class pole position. Matt Edwardson is your GT3 and provisional pole sitter, and Christian Maltrek in the end will absolutely dominate in the GT3 field. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's make our way to the grid and see how they all line up for what is our 6th round of the championship. So as the drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up here at the Laguna Seca Raceway in the US state of California. In the GTP and overall category, it is Patrik Thomsen who has taken pole position for Williams Sim Racing Academy. From the Dane to the Englishman of Austin William Campbell for Effect Simulations Club Sport, it was 18 thousandths in the end, but Patrik Thomsen just out edging the 905 driver once again. It's then to the 85 of Ryan Davies, who starts third for Empire Motorsport ahead of John Williams for Effect Simulations, who lines up as well on the second row of the grid. A good job from him, and very close to Ryan Davies this time. Then we've got some LMP2s in the field, and starting on LMP2 pole in 5th place on the grid, it's Effect Simulations Club Sports James Ibram, and then we do have Helder Gonzalez of Tractix Racing, who in the end was only off Ibram by a 10th, if that, the closest qualifying battle between the two of them so far this season. We then do have Jarrett Lee, who starts 7th today, the privateer, a further 7 thousandths off of that third row of the grid, with Øystein Herfjord for Effect Simulations Carbon following on through for the Norwegian flag, and the 1.725 seconds off that pole time for the GTP category. These LMP2s are practically matching those GTPs as they go around here, no doubt about it, and that's going to lead to some interesting scenarios as the multi-class racing really gets underway. And then in 9th, it'll be Emil Koopmans for Effect Simulations Club Sport, who comes into this round with a 4-point penalty in the championship due to an incident at Monza, so therefore he's got some hard work cut out for him if he wants to chase the top 3 in the championship come the end of the season. But from the Dutchman to the Brit of Tom Farr, well, the DDK Racing Team driver completes your top 10 there in what is 10th place in the 171. Then on row at number 6 is going to be Amit Rajat Ghosh, the Indian driver, the privateer, starting in 11th place, best of the rest, and he's in the company of the LMP2 of Justus Stakiokas for Over the Limit Racing. For a mixed GTP and LMP2 row, we have another one, albeit it's the LMP2 of Ben Cullen for Effect Simulations ahead of Olympus Esports, Andreas Nordenhoff. And then we do have on row at number 8, Simon Bamber for Effect Simulations Carbon, who completes what is the prototype field of GTPs and LMP2s in his LMP2 901. We then have on what is GT3 overall and Pro Pole, Christian Maltre, a brilliant qualifying performance there from the privateer, his first pole position of the season, and he's ahead of the pair in the GT3 Pro category with Sean Cranley-Swash for Ansi Sports and Sai Anzi for Dragon Arezio. It was close between the trio in qualifying, but Maltre finding 2 tenths over his peers, and then Kasper Brøckner just behind them as well, a further 3 tenths behind, where he starts 4th place in GT3 for Old Dudes in Cars and 19th on the overall grid. Then you come to what is your pole sitter in GT3 AM. He's the 5th of the GT3s on this grid. It's Matt Edmondson for UK Sim Racing Button. Another great pole position that from him, and that will go into his statistics chart, no doubt about that, in the 176. But from him, starting on what is 21st on the grid, it's for Made Racing's Jack Barker, who coming into this round was saying to be in confidence, and well, I don't think he minds me saying it, in the fact, and I think he said it in his interview last time out at Monza, really, it's all going to be about strategy today, and he'd prefer it to rain, but in brilliant sunshine, he's going to have to get crafty with the details of the strategy, no doubt about it. He's going to be in the company of Satinder Deenser for Tiki Simsport, who takes his best qualifying position on the grid, 2nd place in the GT3 AM class, and then we do have the AM pairing in the GT3s of Steve Hughes for Ansi Sports and UK Sim Racing Buttons James Conley. We then have Darren Sharp, who started 25th for Old Dudes in Cars, ahead of UK Sim Racing Irvine's Nathan Anstis, with Rob Windsor for UK Sim Racing Irvine following up his teammate in 27th, and there's Slow and Steady Racing's or SAS Racing's Alex Brown 28th, and then starting at the very back of the grid in terms of qualifying times, but they will be moved forward to their classes respectively. It'll be Nathan Foster for Empire Motorsport and James Acklam, the privateer, and I believe we've also got a bit further behind them John Davis of the Wrong Stuff, who didn't set a valid qualifying time, but will be at the back of the GT3 AM field, and the same for Daniel Pace for Old Dudes in Cars in the 888. So that's how our 32 drivers line up on the grid, ladies and gentlemen, and well, I can tell you one thing, we are already halfway around the formation lap here. That is how short the lap is in terms of, for our drivers, how they're all going to be coming together, and it does mean, as we get ready to go racing, well, for Patrik Thomsen, he's not too far away from going green, and now he's got to get his head down and try and pull away from Austin William Campbell, but will he be able to do so? Because we know William Campbell is chasing and trying to get one over Patrik Thomsen when both of them share the grid. We've only got the best part of what is a corner and a half before we do make our way to the start-finish line straight, and as they come on down here into us turn number 10, it's going to be the rivalry of Thomsen versus William Campbell, but who will be victorious here? It's time to find out in round 6 of the championship. And it's go, go, go for Patrik Thomsen. He leaves it relatively late, but he plays it smart, and they roar up their way down towards turn number 1 and 2. But as they come down towards the Andretti hairpin, Austin William Campbell's not too far behind. And as they all come hard onto the brakes for the first time, John Williams there playing it nice and safe, tucking in behind Ryan Davies as Davies loses the rear end there, going for Andretti. You can see Amit Rajat Ghosh almost follows him, albeit is able to get the car stopped in time in the LMP2 class. Well, the LMP2 field's now making its way across that timeline. Already some scraps and battles going on further down the order. James Ibram gets a brilliant start over Helder Gonzalez. nails it. Meanwhile, Øystein Herfjord taking a sneaky look up the inside of what is Jarrett Lee. Under braking, they all go, and it's going to be side by side here between Emil Koopmans and Justus Stakiokas. And Will Koopmans is going to hold on to the position there as they exit the corner and make the way towards turn number 3. But Stakiokas has got other ideas there. But I think this is just as much defense as an offense as Tom Farr looks, and Stakiokas goes round. Farr takes evasive action, but he's going to have to go off the grass. And as he does so, they make the way into the right-hander at turn number 4. Side by side they go, and it proves you can go too wide through turn number 4. And Simon Bamber in the end has had a lightning start and makes swap another place. He's already up into 6th for the LMP2s. But here comes Farr looking back up the inside. The DDK Racing Team driver's not going to be left behind that easily. And as he comes on through, Bamber backs out there and recognises there's no point burning the time. Well, from then we come to the GT3 field. It's already making its way up behind the LMP2s. And that's Sight Anti-M to fend off Sean Cranley Swash after getting the ground on what is Cranley Swash in the early stage of this race. They make the way up the rise and in towards what is turn number 6. And as they do, everyone calms it down immediately. Cranley Swash goes wide and loses the rear of the car, getting a little bit too eager on the throttle pedal, and the car goes around the rear wing comes down. And I can imagine that's going to be a car that's very quickly making its way to the pit lane for a fast repair. And well, that's going to be frustrating for the Anti Sports driver. Had a brilliant qualifying session and was looking to go all in today to try and chase down a victory. But certainly it's going to be now all about that recovery drive. But never say never. You've got 60 minutes of racing plus a final lap, and anything can happen over the race distance. But as our GT3 field gradually carves its way towards the end of their first lap, well, already our prototypes are making the way all the way through what is their second lap, and including what is looking to the LMP2 class, we do have the train of Ben Cullen, Tom Farr and James Ibram. And right now Cullen just can't quite get things in gear, it would seem, albeit he's tucked in behind his teammate of what is Simon Bamber. But Bamber is gradually pulling away. Well, he won't be if he runs wide out of turn number 3, more like that today, and that's going to be Cullen up the inside immediately as now Farr will get into the queue very close behind. James Ibram also thinks about it. Well, here they go then in towards turn number 5, and well, Farr decides not to go for it there, and I think he was of two minds as we ride on board here with the DK Racing Team LMP2 machine, and the 171 right now bouncing around there, really trying to get this car to settle down at the moment. I think a lot of our drivers struggling with track temperature and tyre temperatures with that as he heads up the rise here, coming up the roll straight and in towards turn number 8, but he's too far back here to think about a move. He's going to go defensive in the middle of the road there. You'll notice not feeling quite confident in the fact that he does have some pressure from Ibram, but gets a good run for the corkscrew, and Ibram falls backwards. But as they do, we've got a bit of a scrap in the GT3 AM class here, as we do have Daniel Pace ahead of Alex Brown and John Davis. Davis taking a quick look up the inside there, not meaning anything from it, but gets into the mind of Brown, and Brown goes wide as a result. And as they run up the rise, well, that's going to be, my good lord, well, if Moses was to part the sea, well, his name was John Davis in reality, because what a lovely move there from the Wrong Stuff driver, completely catching Daniel Pace by surprise, and Alex Brown running wide, and then he came on, gave awareness and respect to the Wrong Stuff McLaren, and that was an absolutely bold and brave move, but actually brilliant from the 26 drivers. They come down, and Pace in the end can't seem to find a way to get back into this battle, albeit I think he is now as they come down towards 11. He's going to go in here. I think he's been caught napping and realises it, but in the end it goes very deep on the apex of turn 11, and Davis just simply says, okay, well, I'll show you how to do the cutback manoeuvre there, and gets it done absolutely on a dime as they make the way across that line and up towards turns 1 and 2 once again. Now Alex Brown, can he look for a move here in the fight for 6th place in the G3 AM class? And it looks like at the moment he can't. Gets a bit close there, a bit unsighted under his braking zone and runs a little bit deep, but able to rotate that McLaren quite nicely and prevent a full front lock-up. But as he rolls on through, that's going to cost him a bit of time, and Pace now back on the charge after Davis as they make the way out to turn number 3. But heading onwards, and we look to the GTP category as they're already getting closer and closer to the back of the GT3 Anfield here. That's how quickly they're going to close up. And well, for those sitting there wondering right now, do they race this circuit in multiclass in real life? Well, literally at the same time as this race was actually unfolding on Sunday, we did have IMSA visiting here in what was the mixture of GTPs and also GT3 machinery for what was the 2025 championship campaign. So therefore this is definitely a circuit that sees a whole variety of machines race on it year in, year out, and not just in separate races but also at the same time, particularly in the Premier American Series of IMSA on an international scale. But coming from real life back to the simulator, albeit you wouldn't be able to tell the difference here given how drivers are racing and absolutely giving it to the limit, as Nathan Foster there has a bit of run wide coming out of turn at number 5, but plants the throttle and says, I'm just going to carry on through and believe it's going to hold up and grip up. Well, it does that time, but the Porsche 963 driver right now running in a happy 3rd place in GTP as he makes way over the rise. John Williams right behind him, and Williams right now thinking about putting some pressure on as Foster gets it almost completely wrong there, and well, Williams is going to make his way up the inside into Rainy Curve and moves up into 3rd place. And Nathan Foster, with that run wide at turn number 5, I think he just got into his head and started to get a little bit on the edge of the tyres, and as a result not having as much grip available, and I think expecting the car to do things it's not able to do, and that's how easy it can happen when you do take a brief run wide here. But as they make the way on towards what will be their 5th tour of the circuit, under race conditions. Well, right now, Williams and Foster, they're as close as you would like, and I think there's going to be a bit more between them before all is said and done. But in towards the Andretti hairpin they go, and as they do, well, we look from them back to Daniel Pace, who in fact fallen behind Alex Brown in recent history, and I believe that's because of an off-track that's occurred for Pace, as we do see there Patrik Thomsen make his way on through, and the start of the multi-class traffic begins, as it's going to be Pace at the inside of Brown, in towards turn number 5, Brown turns in, sees Pace there, and well, Pace in trying to capitalise on Thomsen, creating a bit of a door for him. They're going to be too wide into turn number 6, Brown's not backing out, and he turns in, but he finds Pace is still there, and well, gets the elbow to the gravel, and I think Brown will be a bit frustrated about that, but I think Pace will say in return to him, well look, I can't just simply make the car disappear, and well, I think the two will have a bit of a discussion down the pit lane after the race is all said and done, but Brown does rejoin, but he loses out to James Conley. Had a nightmare start, and Conley has moved up into what is 7th place at GT3 AM, but it's definitely not been the start to his day that he's wanted. As we do say hello to Satinder Dinsa in the YouTube chat there, and enjoying the use of the cover photo of his Porsche 992 from Monza. We thought you'd like that, we thought the Tiki Sport Garage would like that one, and I hope you're doing well, good sir. Well, as our drives roar the way on through, we've got some more battling to come, as John Williams, after making that pass on Nathan Foster, which was aided by Foster getting it completely wrong going for the corkscrew, only a lap ago. The effect simulation is driving out, it's under pressure here as they make their way up towards what will be turn number 2 once again, and well, we have seen this Cadillac be quite strong on the what is the longer straights, particularly at say Monza for example, but not as strong on the technical circuit so far this season. And John Williams right now, I think, really feeling the pinch and the fact he's got a lot of straight line speed when he makes his way out the final corner, but that's only the really straight way that he can use in order to maximise the performance of this car as he cuts up the inside there of, I believe, that is going to be the car of James Conley, unless I'm mistaken. It's missed the front bumper. That is definitely James Conley, and as they make their way through turn number 5, well, right now, that was bold, that was brave, and in the end, John Williams able to put a bit of light of the day between himself and Nathan Foster as he cuts his way out the inside there at Kasper Brøckner, and well, Williams absolutely flying here, just trying to pull out some distance as he now comes up behind John Davies, and I think he's going to be thinking about how to get it done in towards what will be the rainy curve, as you can see Foster now starting to catch up a little bit there and just being as brave as his rival, but as they make the way on through here, and definitely guts and glory and absolutely digging in for everything. Well, right now it takes guts if you're in a GT3 to keep one eye ahead of you and one eye in your rear view mirror, whereas the GTPs and LMP2s come through as they roar their way past us here and down towards what will be turn number 2, and this is Darren Sharples over the back of Steve Hughes. 2 GT3 drivers, albeit in different classes, but the key point being here as they make their way through in the 777 machine, the old dudes at cars machine. Well, right now Sharples staying close and trying to pull away from Nathan Anstis, who's 2 seconds behind. Anstis' watch, he's got Rob Windsor for company, but the early battles we did see have started to calm down a little bit, but it is understandable given the fact that this is a very technical circuit and overtaking so challenging, albeit whilst it may be going a little bit quiet in the GT3 class, we can always count on the LMP2s to deliver some absolutely bold statements, and well, many of you remember at Monza last time, the LMP2 class, in the end there was fireworks, albeit even before we had completed the best part of 15 minutes of racing, and we did see some major shunts, we saw some major incidents, but we also saw some of the finest battling of the season, and Jarrett Lee found himself right in the thick of it all the way up through the 60 minutes of Monza, and how that car managed to stay unscathed at 115 I will never know, albeit I know one thing right now is that running wide like that coming out of turn number 4 into 5 is only going to give Øystein Herfjord confidence, and well, the man who's second place in the championship, who closed up massively to what was James Ibram as a result of his performance in his win at Monza, well, right now he finds himself stuck behind Lee as they head up towards what will be turn number 7, and that's Brown going around there, taking the spin as Helder Gonçalves going quite slowly. Now, was there contact between the two of them? We will try and get a replay of that very shortly, but that was a surprise and not a welcome one to be sure, as Gonçalves tucks back in, and was they make the way down for the corkscrew. I think we are about to get a replay of what happened there, but just before we do, we have had a change of position here, was Andreas Nordenhoff up the inside of Amit Rajic Gorge in towards the turn 11 hairpin. It was they make the way weaving and bobbing down the start finish straight, or it's Kings in towards turn number 2. Well, John Davis there just stays to the outside and says, I don't want to play a part of this. Amit Rajic Gorge up the inside there, being passed in towards turn number 11. We believe the Ferrari 499 driver being caught out by the Porsche 963, but can we get a replay of that as well? Well, yes we can with most certainty, and without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get a replay firstly of what exactly happened to Alex Brown only moments ago, and then with regards to that overtake that was made. Well, here's the replay then, and this was Alex Brown having it all go wrong. Now, was he tapped by Helder Gonçalves? And the answer is yes, he was, albeit I think he was struggling there to get the car to grip up coming out of turn number 6 on Gonçalves, having nowhere to go in the end and trying to get the throttle on, expecting Brown to accelerate to Ray. A bit of a difference of interpretation of the exit of the corner there, I think, between both drivers. And simultaneously, whilst that was happening, well, this was Andreas Nordenhoff making the move on Amit Rajic-Ghosh, coming through turn number 10 in towards 11, and Ghosh having a bit of a slow run out the corner and tucking in behind was the old dudes at cars machine of, I believe, Daniel Pays, and Nordenhoff seeing the gap there and saying, okay, you know what, if you're going to leave the door that wide open, I'm going to go for it. And what a lovely move, no doubt about that, as we head back to your live racing. And as we do, ladies and gentlemen, still plenty more racing to come, no doubt about it. And as our drivers are all the way on through, well, it's definitely been an eventful opening, a few laps of the racing action. Albeit we didn't quite get a replay of what happened to James Connolly. I don't think it was captured on camera, unfortunately. But what we can do in the meantime, as things continue to pick up the tempo, well, Helder Gonçalves is closing up to the back of Øystein Herfjord, but Herford's all up the inside here of Jarrett Lee. But the problem is they've got traffic in front of them, and that's going to be Connolly there, the man we've been talking about a lot today. We're missing the front bumper in that McLaren, and well, Lee right now still 3 wide as they come into turn number 3, just about squeezes to the inside, respects the fact that Herford's there. They survive it well as they make their way through turn number 4. Now Gonçalves will be looking at this and thinking, okay, it's my turn to play, and will 3 LMP2s make their way out towards turn number 5. Will they all leave it? Well, Jarrett Lee goes absolutely defensive to the inside, and Gonçalves goes around the outside. Koopmans is boxed there, he's pinched, but Gonçalves goes deep, and as a result, it's to back off the throttle, and in the end, it's going to be Herford who gets back ahead, as Helder Gonçalves, I think he thought he got it all done, and you can see just how razzled they both are. Frazzles, I should say, there. Getting my words completely mixed up. My lexicon's gone out the window already. But right now, Jarrett Lee proving a very challenging man to pass. But he's gone wide. He's gone wide at the Corkscrew. And Jarrett Lee, in the end, for all the hard defensive driving, ends up releasing Øystein Herfjord and Helder Gonçalves up into third. We're up into second and third, respecting the LMP2 class. Goodness me, it all unfolded there in the space of a lap as they now make their way through more GT3s. And I don't think this is over yet. I don't think Øystein Herfjord's going to be allowed to just run away with this, because he gets caught up with a little bit of GT3 AM traffic there as they come out the final quarter, and as they make their way across that timeline. There's still plenty more laps to come with certainty. If you're wondering how many laps we are expecting today, we will get that statistic for you shortly. But as they make their way down towards what will be at turns 1 and 2, well, right now Øystein Herfjord having to go as defensive as he was offensive only moments ago, and with the shoe being on the other foot, the hunter has now become the hunted. And we are expecting a grand total here today, ladies and gentlemen, of 48 laps to be turned. That's 4-8 in the GTP category, so we're not even a quarter of the way there yet, but already we've had enough racing action, I think, to fill a 60-minute highlight reel. But as they come in towards what will be at turn number 5, while drivers continue right now to push each other to the limit. There's a slight run by Devon Herford, but is able to get it done in terms of getting the throttle back on, because he did get the power down on the flat on the exit of turn number 5, so not having to worry as much about that. But you can definitely see how Gonçalves and Lee are staying with him as much as humanly possible. A bit further back, Emil Koopmans has got Ben Cullen for company, the 2 sister team drivers for Effect Simulations. Well, right now they're just pushing each other onwards as they make their way in towards the Corkscrew chicane, but no difference between the two of them right now. They stay as they were, and whilst all this has been happening, well, elsewhere in the GTV AM category, Satinder Dienza has found his way past Matt Edmondson for the lead of the class, albeit he has got Edmondson right behind him as they power their way along in towards what will be at the Andretti hairpin, and for them this will be the 10th time they've gone down there. And well, coming on down, you can see Darren Sharple's a bit further back. This is the fight as well for what is 5th in the GT3 category overall, so our GT3 AM drivers once again showing that they're willing to contest the top 5 overall of the GT3 class. They're not just in their own little class to play today, but right now Edmondson close, but can he get a little bit closer? That's the problem. Well, the difficulty he's going to have as they make their way through, and Edmondson disappears from the ether and then rematerialises from it. Well, as they make their way out to turn number 4 in towards 5, Dienza right now, I think, wondering how he can use the traffic to his advantage, because the gap oscillating between 3 to 6 tenths here between himself and Edmondson. Edmondson close, but not close enough to really mount an attack here. And if anything, I think he's now worried about the fact he's got Darren Sharples closing up behind him as they come in towards what will be the Rahul straight. Up the hill they'll go, and Dienza right now still up flying there in that Porsche 992. And we would say, on paper, in terms of these GT3s, the Porsche would be a very strong candidate here at Laguna Seca, just because it is the handling car with Porsche, of course, and the doctrine, which is put the engine over the rear axle, get the best possible rear rotation, also the ability to get traction out the corners. And this is one of the circuits where the 2 main things you want is rotation and rear traction when you do get the power down. And well, as he makes his way in towards turn number 11, he'll have a little bit of buffer between himself and the rest of the GT3 field as Edmondson goes out wide there. And I believe that may have been with Darren Sharples making his way into the mix, and that's going to release Steve Hughes up the inside inside of Edmondson. So Hughes moves into second in GT3 AM, and as they head up towards what we turns 1 and 2, well, right now, I can imagine it's going backwards, and it's going from good to bad to worse here for Edmondson. He's got Nathan Anstis looking up the inside, but the two UK Sim Racing teammates there decide not to step on each other's toes. And as much as the number 96 McLaren would love to get on past its sister machine, the 176, I think right now the word might be from the team principal, do not trouble Matt. He needs to get himself back in the game and go hunting after Hughes. And I think Anstis will be in the radio saying, well, yes, that's all well and good, but I can see Darren Sharple's just up the road, and I kind of don't want to let him get away. So as they make the way in towards what we turn 5, well, Hughes, thankfully for Anstis, go take a look, but Edmondson there comes barreling in towards turn number 5, and on the camera it made it look as though he was actually going to be alongside, but I think in the end trying to point the nose into the turn number 5 and being very aggressive in doing so, and it didn't quite work out there as they make the way in towards what is turn number 6, and what you can see up there, the LMP2 drivers still making the way on through, and I believe that is the 906 coming up the rise. That's Ben Cullen now trying to pick his way through here. Well, the problem is he's going to be very picky choosy with regards to the way he gets through, as he finds out as he makes way through the corkscrew that these GT3 drivers are not eager to let the traffic go necessarily when they're hunting each other. But I think it's going to be a case of 6 to 1 and half a dozen another in terms of different interpretations of how this plays out between our drivers as they make their way in towards turn number 11, and Cullen going around the outside there of Hughes, and Hughes meanwhile just simply saying to the LMP2s, I think just pick your side and go round me, whichever one it is, I don't care, as he now has Emil Koopmans trying to make his way through, and I think he's just trying to get his head around the fact that they're coming thick and fast here, and indeed the action is not stopping between them. But with that, we need to take a look back at a couple of moments, including how Deansir got on through to take the lead of Matt Edmondson, and here is the replay, ladies and gentlemen, as we do cut to it. This was only moments ago, and what was lap number 9 of their race, and Edmondson, I believe, having a trip to the gravel there at the Corkscrew chicane. You can see him rejoining, so Edmondson having a bit of a nightmare moment, albeit going a bit long, and almost being able to close down there. Deansir, albeit for Andres Nordenhoff making his way on through, and the Olympus Esports Porsche 963 in the end putting a bit of daylight between the two of them. But subsequently, we did see for Edmondson a bit of a moment at what was this corner, turn number 11, a couple of laps later, and this is what happened to Edmondson. I believe he did get into a bit of an altercation as he made his way down into the braking zone, and well, as he came on through here, I think it was Sharples up the inside, tapped the rear of the car, and in the end Sharples went deep. Jarrett Lee came on through, and also Helder Gonzalez made his way through, and then we did see, of course, Steve Hughes take that second place at GT3 AM. So Matt Edmondson going from leader to what was third place during GT3 AM in the case of what was 2 laps, and albeit in 2 separate incidents. But as we do return to your live racing, I think there's going to be plenty more to come, ladies and gents, but in terms of that fight for the GT3 AM lead. But as we come on back then, well, the sun continues to come in and out of what is appearance with regards to where there's a lot of cloud being over the circuit today. You can see it there in the rear of your picture, and that cloud definitely potentially making sure the track temperature doesn't continue to rise as aggressively as it could otherwise. And whilst the drivers make the way on through, well, we do look to where's Patrik Thomsen, your leader in the GTP category, as he's completed 1/4 of this race so far, and well, right now definitely in the bowels of trying to pick and choose his way through all the traffic as it comes his way. And of course, he's the man who's got to really be the bulldozer, make his way on through, because he is your overall leader and GTP leader with that. And Austin William Campbell, meanwhile, 1.7 seconds behind. He's trying to stay with Thomsen as much as he possibly can, but of course he's got to do his own unique way as he makes his way on around the circuit. But as he does so, we do say hello there to the Dark Owl in the YouTube chat. And just a quick reminder, of course, if you are in the YouTube chat, ladies and gentlemen, and you would like to take part in what is a giveaway for 1 month's worth of the Virtual Racing Tool subscription, all you need to do in the YouTube chat is type the letters VRS or Victor Romeo Sierra, and you will be automatically entered, and we will do the draw come the end of the racing action today. But as we are looking at live racing right now, with Steve Hughes, your second place GT3 AM driver, we can see there just behind Matt Edmondson right now, not really closing back up after that altercation between himself and what was Sharples. And I get the feeling that right now Edmondson might be trying to change tactic here, potentially now, rather than thinking he can win this race based on being the fastest man in GT3 AM, instead he's going to do it on strategy, because Hughes is just maintaining that distance to him, that Ford Mustang. And the Mustang is a fast car and it can be set up for cornering, albeit you have to sacrifice a lot to do so, but the big American Beast with its V8, they're also tameable around more technical circuits, and that's why Hughes is running very happily in the second place. But as our tries continue to push onwards, well, we do look to the LMP2 class here, as Emil Koopmans makes his way out the inside there of Jack Barker, the 4th place GT3 Pro. Drives down a very quiet race at the moment, not quite on the pace of the top 3 of the GT3 Pro category, but then again, he doesn't have to be on the pace, he's just got to keep them in vision. You never know what's going to happen in regards to strategy or the way the multi-class traffic plays out, but Koopmans right now the centre of the camera's attention, because he has got Tom Farr a little bit behind him. There is the DDK Racing team, what is 171, and well, after their theatrics in the opening few laps, they have now started to spread out to a degree, albeit albeit I think it's just as much the traffic proving a challenge, as we have had a bit of a moment for Patrik Thomsen. Oh, goodness me, what on earth has happened to our race leader? He's dropped out the lead of GTP, and well, that is at the Corkscrew as he now makes his way on down in towards a rainy curve. Well, a lot of gravel everywhere. And I suspect it might be an easy mistake to make, but suddenly Patrik Thomsen goes from being a very comfortable lead of what's 2 seconds to being the best part of 8 seconds down Austin William Campbell, well, as he makes his way on for turn number 11. We're going to get a quick replay to explain the story, ladies and gentlemen, and here we go then. Here's what happened to Patrik Thomsen only moments ago. This was coming into the Corkscrew chicane, up the inside there on the brakes, and just a little bit too aggressive on entry. You can see the rear of the car just letting go. Oh, goodness me, James Ibram almost adding to the woes for Patrik Thomsen as he goes to one spin and then another, albeit he turns back the other way there. Make sure it's not 720 degrees he goes for, it's just 360, and for Patrik Thomsen that could have been race ending, and well, it wasn't in the end, thankfully, and he'll be very grateful for that one because that was very close to curtains. But we return to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen, that even the very fastest out there can get it wrong at Laguna Seca, and we've seen that just now. Do come back to your racing. Well, right now Patrik Thomsen on the recovery, then chasing after Austin William Campbell, your race leader, who right now holding on to that class lead, albeit by 7.5 seconds, but he's finding himself right in the thick of the traffic as they make the way on through and down in towards what we turns 10 and 11. But as he comes on down through there, well, he's got a lot of cars in front of him, and well, it's an LMP2 battle with what is your GT3 PRO leader, Christian Malcherek, with that brilliant pole position lap. Well, he's extending his advantage. You see Science in the rear of the picture, but with all of that LMP2s coming through, that's Ben Cullen, Emil Koopmans and Tom Farr all together here as they make their way down. Austin William Campbell's going to go up the inside of 1, he's going to go up the inside of 2, but he's not going to get the 3rd because there's not enough length for road, but he's going to interrupt that battle. I think he's going to be saying over the radio to his Effect Simulations teammates, can you politely get out of the way, please? I think there's going to be a few swear words potentially thrown in there, depending on how stressed he is right now, but I can imagine the message is going to be very clear, and we're just putting it in gentleman language for you. We'll put it for our gentlemanly translator, and as they make the way up towards turn number 5, well, right now Ben Cullen are absolutely trying to hold on here with Koopmans and Farr following him, and whilst you may have multiple Effect Simulations cars all in the LMP2 class, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, they want to beat each other just as much as they want to beat any driver from any of the other teams out there. They've all got a point to prove on each other. Of course, it's a great old rivalry within the team, and that's why it's one of the most beloved teams on the iRacing Simulator platform, if not in the entire simulated racing scene. But as they come down their big slide from Farr as he comes on through the Corkscrew, and those tyres now started to get a little bit too hot with regards to always these track temperatures, and also pushing hard. And that's the thing, the deeper and deeper you go into this race, this is a circuit with quite a high level of tyre wear, and also it does hold on to that track temperature quite nicely, albeit we have got the cloud which is preventing it from climbing, but make 1 or 2 big slides there and suddenly those tyres will become blistering hot, and when they do get hot, suddenly all that traction starts to go out the window, and that tyre window is quite finite. But as they come over the rise and down, well, for these LMP2 drivers, they're on to their 18th tour of the circuit, and meanwhile our race leader, Austin William Campbell, he's on lap number 19 as they push towards the halfway point. But from them, we come back to our second place GT3 AM driver, Steve Hughes, is in the close company of Darren Sharples, who's your 5th place at GT3 PRO driver in the meantime. Sharples is still making his way on around there, no front bumper, albeit that weight reduction not really helping in regards to straight line speed. If anything, it will go against him because the amount of air resistance will increase over the front of the car, getting caught in all the intake sections over the front panels. And as they make the way down towards turn number 2, well, here comes Nathan Anstis getting very close to the back of Edmondson. I think Anstis at this point, he's definitely getting the feeling of wanting to try and pass his sister team's driver, but the problem is in the fact that if he does so here, well, both drivers are trying to push onwards, and understandably Edmondson does not want to have a sister car between himself and what is the man he's battling for second in the GT3 AM class, albeit Anstis there, seeing Edmondson go wide a little bit again, and I think some pressure is building for Edmondson in the fact he's pushing hard to try and make sure that Anstis doesn't have an opportunity to potentially put himself on the inside for the two to swap, but in pushing so hard to keep ahead of Anstis and also keep Hughes in his sights, he's now started to just push himself a little bit over the limit, or what we like to refer to as overdriving the car slightly, and well, that's a risk there. And at this circuit, if you overdrive, you've got some runoff areas, but the problem is they are not the nicest of runoff areas, and you'll normally find a tyre barrier shortly after them. But from them, as we do see it, Farr looking around the outside of Koopmans in towards turn number 2. Well, Ben Cullen just now trying to use this as an opportunity to break away as Farr gets in very close once again today. We're rolling the way into turn number 3, and so you can see there Farr decided to break a little bit earlier, naturally part of the course because of the concertina effect, but also they're trying to get for a much nicer exit line on a tighter exit, get the throttle down nice and early. Farr now already trying to set up these cutback runs out the corners, and more in towards turn number 5 he goes there, really only one way through here. You can see how close he's getting on corner entry all the way out to the apex. And then suddenly, naturally, Koopmans is able to pull away as the sparks fly from the under tray of the car in front. And well, the 904 right now definitely bouncing around on its suspension, and the under tray scraping against the tarmac. But as they come over the rise and in towards turn number 8, as far there battling with the steering wheel. My good lord, the car almost releasing itself off of braking there, coming through turn number 8 into the Corkscrew. Well, that's a sign he is running a lot of rear brake bias on this Dallara P217 machine. In the fact if the car is jinking around like that as he comes off the brakes to turn in, well, that's a sign the rear brakes are letting go before the front brakes, and the bias towards the rear is absolutely huge on the DDK Racing Team 171. And well, right now I can understand why we're seeing these slides. He does let what is none other than Patrik Thomsen come through in the number 1, and as they make the way down, well, right now it is going to be one of those moments whereby for far he'll be hoping that Thomsen can be just as much a thorn in what is his rival sides as he can in his side, so that way he doesn't really lose his pack. And the answer is yes, that's the way it's going to play out as they all come back together and they're coming out of turn number 3. Well, right now so close together here, and it's going to be one mistake I think that could absolutely kick off a chain reaction, albeit anything's possible all the way up to the checkered flag between these 3 drivers, no doubt about it. But as they all make the way on around, well, Jarrett Lee now has Helder Gonzalez getting close to him, the 115 driver here, 9 right now, the number 23. It was a bit far away earlier on, but it's back here to stay at once again, and Lee having to go in the inside into turn number 10, up the inside of what is James Connolly's car, and well, that's going to be a smooth move initially, but now he's got John Davis in front of him, and we'll catch it onto the back of that McLaren 720S at the wrong tyre, right at the apex of what is turn at number 11. Well, he will get a good run out of the corner, albeit you can see how much it's enabled Gonzalez to get closer and closer, albeit of course it will narrow the line they have through turn number 1. It means Gonzalez right now can't really look for the lunge into turn 2 unless he's going to go all in, but even from that far back there, I think you're going to need more than one first class stamp in order to do it. But as they come in towards turn number 3, and no change between these two at the moment, but they are getting very close to the back of each other, and Lennon P2 already be in the class right now. We do have these boxing matches between drivers in terms of not quite getting the elbows out there, but in terms of how close they are to each other, and it only takes one move to potentially land a knockout blow and take that position and try and run away with it. But as they roar the way up towards what will be turn number 5 and onwards, well, whilst all this has been happening, we have had a bit of a change further on down in what is the GT3 AM class. Here's Steve Hughes, and well, Hughes is second place in GT3 AM. He's been there for some time, no change really there, but you'll notice the absence of what is a McLaren 720S of Matt Edmondson, and that's dropped all the way down to 6th place in the GT3 AM class. It's behind what is Rob Windsor, John Davis and James Connolly now. Exactly what's happened to Matt Edmondson? Well, there he is. Was there an instant? Was there a spin? We're not quite sure, but we will try and find out when we can for you, and I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, we haven't got that data coming through at this time. Well, I believe it might have been a run into the pit lane for Matt Edmondson. In fact, yes it is. That explains it there. We thought it might have been an instant, but not so. And well, as that is a car off the road there, that's not Tom Farr, that's Emil Koopmans, who's just recovered coming on through the Corkscrew. So Koopmans having a bit of a moment there, and well, was he aided or was he not? We'll try and get a replay of that when we can, but that is going to release what will be far up the road, and Cullen as being, well, that's a change of position into turn number 2, and that is Helder Gonzalez getting ahead of Jarrett Lee, but Lee comes back at him, and as they go too wide in towards turn number 3, they make contact, and in the end both tries going around, and Ben Cullen's too far away to capitalise on this because he's all the way back at Wade's turn number 2. Well, Gonzalez and Lee, they both get themselves back together, and well, John Davis comes into the scene of the instant here and says, what on earth's going on here? And I think Jarrett Lee right now and trying to get the car back together and get it all hooked up. As you can see, even more cars coming into the scene of the instant now, and well, I think Lee and Gonzalez, they'll both have their own interpretations of what exactly happened there, but I think Lee wanted to go all in on the inside there. It's turn number 3, seeing the door was open, and well, Gonzalez meanwhile turned on in expecting to be able to close the door before Lee could get to the apex, and we'll end in the 2 and make contact as they both tried to fight over that apex there. But we'll have to try and take a look back shortly as to how that all started with the overtake into Andretti, and then how it all ended with both of them having that coming together as Patrik Thomsen makes one from the inside there into Rainy Curve on the inside of Jarrett Lee, and Lee right now, he'll be fuming, but he'll know he needs to cool himself down and go on the attack once again as Øystein Herfjord into the pit lane. As look out my quality booth window, and well, the second place LMP2 driver being serviced as per the time, and I think right now deciding to go for the undercut and go for an early pit stop here just to simply get himself out on circuit and try and find himself a bit of clear track, in the fact that if you look at that circuit map at the top right corner of your screen, there are some spaces out there where you do have about a 10-second window to the next car out of the circuit, and what I can imagine that Herford will be trying to make sure he comes out into that rather than end up back out in traffic, as that will enable him to gain a load of race time as he leaves the pit lane here, and as he does so, crawling his way on out. We have had a couple of premature retirements for this race. We have had what is the retirement of Sean Cranny-Swash, and also Justice Stakiokas, I do believe. We've got Daniel Payes in the pit lane at the moment. Also Alex Brown. Well, in fact, Alex Brown is out on circuit. Let's correct ourselves. James Connolly has been serviced in the pit lane, but we'll keep you updated as we do see more pit stops play out. I believe they've been able to put the front bumper back on James Conley's car, at least a replacement one, which is a good sign as well, so he won't feel as much drag down the straights anymore, and he'll be able to pick up a little bit more pace out there. But without further ado, as we look back to Koopmans and Acklam, well, Acklam has not been really in this battle for some time after falling off of what was the battle for what was 6th through to 8th in the early stages of this race. He finds himself right back there now in the hunt for 6th, albeit keep in mind that Øystein Herfjord is only 6 seconds behind, and with a pit stop in hand, you would imagine that Herfjord will be feeling as though he can very quickly make some progress with James Ibram, but the problem is if he catches this battle at the wrong time, he may end up in a situation whereby in fact he's going to lose out, as Jack Barker meanwhile, well, he's in the pit lane and leaving it now. He's going to drop down to 5th in the GT3 PRO category, but it does get his one and only pit stop, we suspect, out the way nice and early, and he can focus on delivering the laps of Koopmans into the pit lane then with a little bit of damage on the front of the car. You can see it over the front left wheel arch there from the driver's perspective, or front right from the camera, and therefore he's going to look to get that repaired and get himself fully back up to speed when he does make his way back up to the circuit. So pit stops are now starting to kick off, albeit we're seeing primarily in the LMP2s and also into our GT3s. We haven't seen anything from what is our GTPs as of yet. The only one who has come into the pits has been Ryan Davies, the Empire Motorsport BMW M V8 Hybrid, but otherwise all our GTPs stand out strong there, as I do believe we now need to take a look back at what exactly happened between Helder Gonzalez and Jarrett Lee in their battle, and they're coming together subsequently. As we cut to the replay, then here we go, ladies and gentlemen, courtesy of Arturo Mayorga, and as they made the way down in towards turn 1, Gonzalez on the inside there, Lee coming across, really squeezing Gonzalez to the apex of turn number 2, but gives him the space in the end. Fair racing between them, right on the limit. Then in towards turn number 3, Lee sees the door open, thinks he's got the run in, and well, in the end, I think, try to get his nose in there. I think Gonzalez will say, your nose didn't belong there. I think Lee would say, maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but of course, both have a different view, and a little bit of an elbow there as they both rejoined. I think Lee taking his time to rejoin, noted in the end as he made his way back up to speed. Okay, perhaps, you know what, it didn't quite work out that way, but as they make their way back into the racing, I would suspect they'll be fighting each other before we know it once again. As we do come back to a live circuit side, well, plenty more to cover over this race distance, ladies and gentlemen, no doubt about it. And well, Matt Edmondson taking that early pit stop in the GT3 AM class, we'll have to look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do, having made such an early stop compared to his peers, as we do have Hughes and Windsor in the pit lane as well. So Deanser and what is Davis yet to pit. John Davis making his way all the way out the order, but of course he is out of strategic alignment with a good chunk of the rest of his peers, so therefore you will see him go back down the order, we suspect, once he does make his pit stop. That's not to besmirch or belittle him, it's just the way it goes, unfortunately, but still he'll be enjoying that run up towards the front of the GT3 AM class. And well, speaking of John Davis, let's give him some screen time. There he is, as he makes his way down towards what is turn number 5. And we're right now just carrying on out there. And the man already has had plenty of theatrics today, particularly with what was that Moses manoeuvre up towards the Corkscrew chicane in the early stage of the race. Well, right now as he carries on here, the man in the wrong stuff machine is doing plenty right, and well, he'll be hoping to do more right, potentially try and come home for a top 5 in the GT3 AM class before all is said and done. Albeit the wipers going on there to get some of the stone chips and gravel off of the windshield, trying to give himself a bit better visibility. But as the clouds keep coming on over, I can only imagine for our drivers it might be a bit frustrated in terms of the visibility they've got on those brake markers as well, maybe changing from what is a lap to lap, but if they're using shadows or certain patches where the sun falls on the circuit as brake markers, the one thing you don't necessarily want to do, because those things are moving. Brake markers you normally want to be static. But as we go from talking about brake markers to man exiting the braking zone, we also come back to your race leader overall in GTP cars. It is none other than Austin William Campbell, as he powers his way up the rise and in towards what will be turn number 6 once again. And we're right now definitely looking on track here, very comfortably on track by 6.5 seconds. Patrik Thomsen is bringing that gap down little by little. The gap when they did change places was the best part of 9 seconds. It has come down over what has been the last 13 laps to 6.5, so based on that trajectory you'd expect it to come down a bit more later on. Also traffic having a bit of a factor there, as it was 3 wide between 3 classes of machine, with Austin William Campbell's GTP up the inside, I believe then, unless I'm very much mistaken, of what was James Ibram's at 903 LMP2, the race leader of the LMP2 class. In fact, 3 leaders in a single photo though. I can imagine if there were any budding photographers down at turn number 11, they would have absolutely paid to have that shot, for the simple reason you had the leaders of all 3 car classes running side by side into the braking zone for turn number 11, and well, we couldn't have scripted that photo if we tried, ladies and gentlemen. But as our number 4 driver Christian Maltret makes way through, well, he's been leading the GT3 Pro class since the start of this race, and since what was that brilliant pole position lap, his first of the season, and right now he's absolutely running happily at the front of the class by 5 seconds over Cy Anthony. You can see in the rear of the picture there, and Cy Anthony right now just does not seem to have an answer answer in response to Maltrek's pace, but he does have an answer in response to Kasper Brøckner, who is trying to make it 3 wins this season here today at Laguna Seca. But the problem is right now running in third with 2 seconds between himself and Anthony, and then a further 5 seconds to Maltrek. I think it's going to be one of those runs whereby he's going to need a little bit of lady luck at his side, or he's going to need to become very inventive with strategy very quickly. But then again, never count Kasper Brøckner out. We have seen him pull off some absolutely monstrous performances, none more so of course than at Fuji, where he absolutely dominated the class in what's the challenging conditions in Japan. And also at Monza as well, in very stable conditions, he just absolutely flew high, albeit Sean Connie-Swash kept him honest for the most part, but in the end he was slightly untouchable over the race distance. But as Christian Maltrek makes his way into the pit lane, he will release the lead of the GT3 Pro class, so he's not going to lead every lap of the GT3s, but he's seen an opportunity to come on in, he's going to take it, understandably so, and the car will go on to what will be its fuel gun, and I'd imagine he might be staying on the same set of tyres, that he may not choose to change them, as I also see out my content booth window, Patrik Thomsen making his way into the pit lane from 6th place in the GTP class. But as all of our battles now start to come down for a little bit, it really does take a turn towards strategy here. We do look to what is your overall leader of Austin William Campbell, with an advantage now of 4.3 seconds. That gap has come down by the best part of 2.5 seconds on the previous lap. Patrik Thomsen is absolutely flying out there, and I would imagine potentially some traffic has really not helped out William Campbell compared to how it is helping out Thomsen right now. He does seem to be catching the traffic at the ideal spot there, does the Williams Sim Racing Academy driver, as he makes way over the crest and down, absolutely fighting at the steering wheel. Went towards a rainy curve he goes, and that was very close to uncomfortable between himself and what was then the 903 of James Ibram. Ibram flashed his lights down. I think Thomsen just simply saying, I'm coming through whether you like it or not, and we're in towards turn number 11 they go. And as we jump on board here, well, right now Thomsen absolutely giving it everything as he makes way down the start finish straight, and when he's going to go around the other side there. He sees it opening, and well, he puts 3 wheels, in fact almost all 4 wheels off the circuit up the inside there of Steve Hughes. And right now Patrik Thomsen is not playing around at all. I think he's only got one thing on the mind right now, and that is, I'm not in the lead of this race, I should be in the lead of this race. And well, he's on a redemption arc as he makes way through turn number 3, and well, the Dane right now is absolutely daring, no doubt about it, and he's got the number 1 in the car for the reason, because he is our reigning champion. As he cuts the inside there of Patrik Thomsen, has a little bit of run wide, and we'll continue to ride on board here with Thomsen as he makes his way up through turn number 5, and he's absolutely hustling. In fact, can we get a dashboard there? Yes, we can. On the bottom right hand corner of your screen, you can see the relative approach speed he'll make into these corners, and we can imagine the speed he is carrying right now. This is by no means a qualifying lap, but he is going to go all in as he has to back off there, and knowing he's got no real way free, will try and go around the outside Nathan Anstice. In the end, oh, goodness me, Thomsen having to go straight on there, I think trying to be adventurous, and in the end running out of road, and well, as he comes on down there in towards what will be rainy curve. It's practically 3 wide there for a brief moment, as that is the 904 coming up behind. Or in fact, is that 904? Yes, it is the 904 making its way up behind in what was the LMP2 category. You can see that Alex Brown trying to go one way then the other, and well, Brown being knocked left, right and centre as Emil Koopmans in LMP2 also tries to come through, but Patrik Thomsen absolutely trying to charge it. Oh, gets squeezed to the wall there by Matt Edmondson, just about pinches his way through. But I think Thomsen right now, well, I think there's going to be a few words coming out underneath his visor, and they're not going to be the cleanest ones, but I tell you right now, Patrik Thomsen has had a lap and a bit which has been an absolute nightmare. But Matt Edmondson, you can understand why he's needed a charge, because he's back into the GT3 AM leader. Satinder Deans has just served his pit stop, but he comes out behind, and that is Edmondson just in front as they make the way through turn number 4. So that is why we've seen Edmondson absolutely going, but we've also seen Thomsen going. They're both chasing victories here, but right now as they make the way through, well, will it be the 2 drivers who have seen a little bit of red mist descend and absolutely charging onwards who will take victory, or will it be the Qualcomm collective ones who take victory in the form of Austin William Campbell in GTP and what will be in the GT3 AM class? Tinder Deans, well, place your bets, ladies and gentlemen, because right now it's anybody's guess, and we still have the best part of 17 laps, so approximately what will be about 23 minutes of racing to go, plus that final lap, as then Cooper's battling with James Ibram here down into a rainy curve, and Ibram going defensive on Cooper's in towards the corner, but now on the outside of turn number 10. You don't normally defend around the outside of 10, but Ibram's going to try and do it, and in the end comes into the pit lane, and well, Cooper's on what is a lap, well, a pit stop up if you will. Well, Ibram makes his way into the pit lane there, and is going to let it go as behind him, I'm trying to discern who that is. Is that James Ibram from the lead of the LMP2 class? Yes, it is, flashing his lights. He's not happy with the fact that he's coming behind a fellow James, and Ibram in the end I don't think has realised who's coming behind him, albeit, well, right now as they make their way to the pit stalls, they're tripping over each other left, right and centre, where it's out on circuit or in the pit lane. And well, in fact, Ackland's making his way through. That's a drive-through penalty he's having to serve there, most likely for track limits, so immediately getting it served, and I would imagine that track, the penalty is not just a track limit point, but also potentially a contact or two out there, because every time you do make contact with another car, unless it's a very light contact, you will get 4 instant points. With only 5 contacts, you could be rewarded with a drive-through penalty immediately. But as Ibram leaves the pit lane, well, Tom Farr goes on to lead the lap of this race, albeit he's yet to take a pit stop. But the DDK Racing Team driver is not going to throw away an opportunity to lead out there, and while cameras do descend on him as a result, as the 171 driver right now carrying on, and we're trying to chase down the top 5 finish in the LMP2 class with the best part of what is 20 minutes or so left to go, albeit that fuel tank is going to be running close to dry, and well, understandably so. I can imagine at this point he might be of the mindset which is that, well, we've just got to try and ease it, get 1 more lap out of the car, another 2 laps out of the car, and then it will be time to bring it on in. But as he makes his way around, well, we have had a disappearance of Matt Edmondson. We haven't quite seen him on the circuit. He was leading GT3 and he suddenly disappeared. Has he been involved in a further moment, or has he had to come into the pit lane? We will try and get an update on that very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. We haven't seen anything so far. I think he has had to make his way into the pit lane. I think it was a drive-through penalty for an instant point limit count, and it does mean that this man now is your GT3 AM leader. Satinder Deensa is happily leading by the best part of 3.6 seconds, but the problem is he happily leading? Yes, he is, because that's Nathan Anstis behind him, and Steve Hughes is a bit too far back, really, to have Deensa in his sights right now, albeit I think he's going to try and chase it down as much as possible. But I think the problem that Hughes is going to have is that this man is right behind him, and that is Rob Windsor, the 812 McLaren 720S for UK Sim Racing. Is absolutely on a mission to bring down the ANSI Sports driver and try to bring him down a place. But as we ride on board here, looking down over the top of the 812 machine, the UK Sim Racing Irvine car right now close, but not close enough. But you can see under braking there, absolutely attacking under braking, but goes a little bit too aggressive and returns to the throttle into turn number 5. So in the end, almost runs wide for his efforts as James Acklam up the inside. Acklam almost goes off the road there. In fact, he practically does, coming through turn number 6, and Acklam right now on the hustle and bustle to try and cover through. So these drivers all on the attack as much as they possibly can, albeit I can imagine that they've also got some very heavily worn tyres here. And well, from them, and a battle in the GT3 AM class, which has had a bit of a breather, we do have John Davies, Matt Edmondson and James Connolly here all ran together, and Edmondson, I believe, involved in a separate spin only moments ago after that drive-through penalty. And well, now Davis is being hunted by Edmondson as Edmondson looks up the inside. Davis covers it off. And there's an LMP2 coming up the outside. That is your LMP2 class leader, Ibram. More effective strategy leader, we believe, but Farr is still out there. Øystein Herfjord in front of him, in fact. So let's correct ourselves there. But as they make the way through, Ibram does sail on through in the end, but it gets a very touchy feel. Oh, goodness me, and that's held a Gonzalez round. Gonzalez is into the barrier, coming out of what is turn number 9 at the Rainy Curve, and the number 23 rejoins, but as it does so, well, right now, shaking from side to side, that's a car that's definitely wounded. It's coming into the pit lane at the end of this lap. And thankfully, there's the pit lane he can come on through, and I think he'll be hoping that fast repair is still available, because otherwise that might be his race at a close. But what exactly happened there? Well, let's find out, ladies and gentlemen, because it's not a happy moment, you can be certain of that, and here's the replay. Now, we begin the story by the looks of things all the way at turn number 3. This was John Davis making his way out of the corner. Matt Edmondson had a spin there and has just rejoined. So this is where it all starts. Then Davis up the inside, and well, Edmondson tucking in ahead of James Connolly, his teammate tucking in behind there. And well, the 3 McLaren drivers here all battling for position, battling for what was 4th place at the time in the GT3 AM class. They made the way through and up the rise, but you could see coming up behind more and more was none other than the machine of James Ibram, and Helder Gonzalez also catching up as they made the way around. Now, what about Gonzalez here? How quickly was he approaching? Well, quite quickly as they made the way up the hill, as was James Ibram. I think Ibram here is definitely going to have a very challenging run through the Corkscrew chicane, or he gets around the 2 of them and coming on down. But as they made the way in towards what was a Rainy Curve, well, this is where things went wrong for Gonzalez. Went round the outside of what was Connolly, and a tiny tap, and it sends the LMP2 driver falling off the circuit. And at that moment, we're trying to get it to stop, but with the momentum it's got, the car reversed its way into the wall, and that was his race. Well, as we come back to your live pictures, there's Gonzalez in the pit lanes of the car being serviced at this time. We've still got more to come, though, with regards to distance. We've still got 13 laps, plus the final one, with Patrik Thomsen back into the lead after all of this. And, well, what on earth has happened to Austin William Campbell? I'm not quite sure, but he has been involved in some sort of moment, we can tell you that. And I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, he's down in 3rd place at the moment. We will try and get a bit of an update on that for you, ladies and gentlemen, when we can. But Thomsen's back in lead, and our GTP top 3 right now have yet to actually come into the pits. The same for Tom Farr, your LMP2 leader. He's trying to stay out there for as long as possible. So you've got a couple of drivers yet to serve their pit stops. Also, Steve Hughes and Rob Windsor, according to our timing tower, have yet to make their GT3 and pit stops. Although if Steve Hughes has yet to take his pit stop and he's in second place, I'd be concerned. I would imagine he's already taken his pit stop, unless I'm mistaken. But I'm sure we'll get an update on that when we can, as everyone continues to push onwards here and tries to see the end in sight, albeit there's still a bit of a way to go. Definitely strategy right now, playing and working out for some, but not for others. And well, it did work out for Matt Edmondson, but it's all gone backwards as quickly as it's gone forwards, unfortunately for him. And well, right now for Patrik Thomsen, he's back into the lead. That GTP class almost falls off the circuit there, coming out to the corkscrew and into the rainy curve. But even at the fastest out there, seem to be struggling, as this circuit is not taking any prisoners. But from where's our GTP leader to our GT3 Pro leader, well, right now Christian Maltrek enjoying a happy run here. Hasn't really put a foot wrong so far, and had a bit of a longer pit stop compared to the rest of his peers, but I think he's been able to afford it in the number 4. Knowing at the end of the day, the pressure is really on everybody else to find a way past him. As we can see up there, was the machine of Austin William Campbell cutting its way out the inside. In fact, that's John Williams in the Cadillac. And then there's Austin William Campbell, the third place GTP driver, coming on down, as we do have John Williams into the pit lane as I look out my commentator booth window. So perhaps we have had what has been an instant for William Campbell, and that's led to him falling on down the order. Perhaps our time screens are right. He hasn't had a pit stop, and the same for Patrik Thomsen. And if so, well, it's as good as guess as anybody's as to what happened. I would suspect potentially a drive-through penalty for instant points, and particularly for track limits. But then again, he's normally quite good on track limits, so he may have been in contact with another driver. Anyway, we'll go from the theory crafting back to what we do know here right now, and that is time is running out in this race, as in the LMP2 class, Øystein Herfjord there makes his way past the GT3 AM leader, and well, Herfjord right now just continues to push onwards with James Ibram 5.5 seconds back. You can see him there in the rear of your camera shot, briefly going side by side with what's the car of Steve Hughes. But right now, Herfjord looking to try and make it back-to-back victories following Monza, and absolutely delivering here after having a bit of a difficult qualifying session. Well, in the race, things have worked out in his favour, no doubt about it. As Thomsen's into the pit lane as I look out my commentator booth window. So it is the lead Ferrari in the GTP category that's finally hit its fuel tank limit, and he's decided enough's enough, he's going to come on in. Will we see a similar response from Austin William Campbell at the end of the lap? We'll soon find out, as we do have what is very little time left for pit stops. If they are out, then they've yet to take a pit stop. I can imagine those fuel tanks are going to be running practically empty at this point, and also the tyres will be needing a bit of a brief breather. But as we continue to look at our LMP2 leader, well, he's in a bit of a comfortable space. But meanwhile, one driver in the LMP2 class who's not is Tom Farr, your 4th place LMP2 driver. He's trying to chase after Jarrett Lee for the final spot on the LMP2 podium, as he makes about the inside there of what is the car of Edmondson. And the GT3 AM 4th place cars, the 2 4th place cars in separate classes, running together for a brief moment. And well, Farr is still on the charge, trying to bring down Lee and bring him down a notch outside that podium and trying to take it for himself. And well, you could understand if he was to take it, he'd definitely deserve it, given how Farr's driven today and enjoyed a lot of battling. The same can be said for Lee as well. They've both had phenomenal drives, but only one can be on that podium, with Ibram and Herfjord a lot further up the road. In fact, by the best part of 20 or so seconds. As they weave and wind their way on down through the corners. Well, as our leaders in LMP2 exchange laps, and Lee and Farr exchange laps for what is the final spot on that podium. There are no real battles out on circuit at the moment. Things have calmed down for a brief moment, but this is to be expected at the Laguna Seca circuit, and we are still waiting to see whether there's any late twist in the tail. You can never be certain, and that's the one thing we've seen all season long so far, is that races seem to go one way, then they go another, and right at the last minute, it can all suddenly completely change and be upended. And well, last time out at Monza, we saw plenty of that, particularly in LMP2 and also GT3, and we could see more of that again today, because we have definitely had a race absolutely full of moments and incidents, and also some brilliant overtakes, no doubt about it. But there could be still more on the clock, and Kasper Brøckner will be hoping for a little bit more. Currently 3rd place in the GT3 Pro class, albeit the championship leader coming into today, but he is going to lose some critical points with Cy Anthony just in front of him, and Christian Maltrek, who really has been a revelation here today, running away with proceedings and setting a new personal best of 22.558, and right now there is nothing stopping this man other than bad luck, it would seem, from ensuring that Cy Anthony doesn't take his 2nd win of the season, and instead it will be a 1st win of the season for Christian Maltrek. But from them, going to the GT3 AM class, And right now, Stinder Dienzer still running happily out there, albeit the gap between himself and Steve Hughes has dropped slightly. It has dropped down to 4.4 seconds on the previous lap. And as they come across the timeline this time, well, for Dienzer, a 23.868. For Hughes, meanwhile, in the Mustang, it is going to be a 23.878. So practically matching each other down to the 10th and almost the 100th. So right now, Hughes giving it everything he's got, but Dienzer's matching him bit by bit. And we're in the battle of the Porsche and the Mustang. Well, even though we said earlier on the Mustang's not really suited for this circuit compared to the Porsche, Hughes right now definitely finding a lot of time in this car and trying to get the best out of it. And this second place will feel like a win as he wrestles it out of the gravel there, coming out of what's turn number 3, running a little bit wider, a bit of understeer. I can imagine that front left tyre is going to be absolutely shot by the end of this race if he hasn't changed it in the pit lane. As up the inside and there goes what is the Empire Motorsport GTP, and that is Ryan Davies cutting his way on through, and having spent quite a bit of time in the pit lane, having made 2 pit stops today, you understand Davies right now just carrying on and trying to bring on home what will be at some points for the team before they head in a week's time to our next venue, and will that be in Road Atlanta. But right now all the drivers here, I think, all keep an eye on the clock, all trying to see how many more laps they've got to go. And well, right now for Jarrett Lee, he's not going to be able to afford to take his eyes off the road, because behind him is none other than Tom Farr as they make the way over the crest and down through the Corkscrew chicane for what for them is their 38th time of asking. And the 115 privateer right now has got Farr absolutely breathing down his neck, and his hunt for the third place spot on the LMP2 podium, it really is going to be the centrepiece of the battling at this time, given the rest of the field is spaced out a little bit. Not that we're complaining about this, we get an absolute treat for eyes. You can see, look at the difference of approach under braking. Lee really trying to be as gentle as possible under braking. I wonder if he's struggling with tyre temperatures and brake temperatures. Meanwhile, Farr absolutely going all in under braking, trying to get as close as possible. Of course, Lee, if he has got a tyre temperature problem, it is going to mean that he's got to be very sensitive with the car. And will we see anything in the body language of the machine that may give it away? Well, as we ride on board here, coming out of the Andretti hairpin, ran a little bit deep through the corner, but you can afford to go deep at the first apex to get more of a V-shape approach. You can turn it into a proper hairpin, if you will. But as they come through turn number 4, well, right now far close, but not close enough to challenge, and Lee doing everything in his power just to stay one step ahead as we jump on board, looking down now from the car that is giving chase as they make the way up through the corners. And as they do, we'll roll the way up towards what will be, at turn number 6 for the 39th time, and coming out of the corner was a good run from Farr. He's close, but not close enough to try and look for a move, and in towards the braking zone they go, and he'll back it off for now as they just come over the rise and down through the dip. But close, not quite close enough to try and go for a move, but he's got some traffic coming up, and I think he'll be hoping that traffic is going to work out from his favour. And well, as we can see there, it's going to be very tight as Rob Winter there puts the car tight on the inside the GT3 McLaren, and well, Lee is able to benefit from it, really choking at what as far as opportunity to try and go for a move by making it only one way through there through the corner. And Lee, you may have noticed he slightly backed off there as they went into the apex at turn number 10, that being intentional, not just to also play it safe, but also to make sure that Farr couldn't get any cheeky ideas, and that's why Lee's holding on for now. But the problem is they're going to have even more traffic in front of them as they make the way into the braking zone, and that is going to be Steve Hughes and Darren Sharples having a little bit of a squabble here over GT3 overall position as Lee looking up the inside there, and also Farr comes on through, and then Hughes just lets it go, knowing at the end of the day doesn't need to be involved in any incident in order to bring on home what will be second place in the GT3 AM class. And Lee in the end through on the inside of what was Sharples, and that's going to cost Farr some time there as they come out of 4 and in towards 5. But a quick exchange, and what an exchange it was, and in the end it's going to be Lee who gets the better out of that. From them, however, well, we've had a bit of a slow run from St. Anthony over the last couple of laps, because Kasper Bröckner was 1 second faster on the previous lap, and Sonny's right there of Anthony. Now, have we had any offs or any altercations for St. Anthony? We haven't got anything on what is our timing tower display to tell us that he's had an off anywhere. So Kasper Bröckner right now breathing down the neck of one of his major championship rivals in the GT3 Pro class, a second place. When Christian Maltrek the best part of 10 seconds up the road, this is going to get very tight and very tasty all the way to the end, albeit it won't stay that way if we do see what is Bröckner going a bit deep like that at the Andretti hairpin on multiple occasions. So that does enable the gap to open back up. You can understand Bröckner's pushing hard. He's pushing a bit too hard, however. I think he's seen what is the rear of that Porsche. He's been chasing it at a distance for so long, and in the end he's become absolutely enamoured by it, and now it's running wide at every single corner. And I can imagine his team principal is going to be on the radio saying, Kasper, get it together. The Porsche does look lovely from behind, but right now there's something even more lovely off in the distance, and that is a hunt for a second place here. You need to keep it on the track. As they come in towards what will be turn at number 6, the old dudes in Carl's drive does settle things down there. Probably the hardest corner to get right of them all. The left-hander at 6 minus the corkscrew, and as he makes way into the braking zone here for what is turn 8, he's going to know that he's got to get everything right from this point onwards if he wants to make a move. But from them. We do see a bit of a GT3 overall battle here suddenly come onto our screens. That is your GT3 Pro driver, Anstis, trying to make a move on Deemsa, the GT3 AM leader. Well, in the end, the two stand aside as they do let the 906 of what is Ben Cullen on through. And, well, they're going to be held to a bit of a breathing moment as behind them, Rob Windsor is over the back of Steve Hughes. Well, run if this is going to come alive. It does, and it shortly ends up having a bit of a hiatus. There's a big run wide there from Windsor through what was turn at number 6. But whilst all that's happening, Wolfar has got ahead of Jarrett Lee. Lee has fallen off the circuit, I do believe, what was turn 8 into 9. And Jarrett Lee's just behind. He comes into the pit lane, and is that a drive-through or an issue with the car for Jarrett Lee? Was he makes one down pit row? I think if it's a drive-through, he's going to be absolutely fuming because that releases Ben Cullen into 4th place in LMP2. Well, as they make the way along, we will wait and find out. I'll keep an eye on the commentator booth window to see if Lee does fall to his pit stall or whether he just simply soldiers his way through what is quite a long pit lane here at Laguna Seca. And, well, as it all happens, I believe Lee is just carrying his way on down, and it is a drive-through penalty for Jarrett Lee, and that will be for instant points, particularly on track limits and potential contact to 2 front into the mix. So that brings to a close was our battle for 3rd place in LMP2 class. And, well, can we get a replay to explain what exactly ended that battle? I think we can, and here it is, ladies and gentlemen, as we take a look back. Now, this was only moments ago, heading up towards the Corkscrew chicane, far looking one way, then the other, leaning in, going late on the brakes, goes very deep and takes an excursion, decides to take the rallycross line, and in the end, will far making his way on through. And I can understand for Jarrett Lee why he did that. I don't think he was going to be able to make the corner, and in the end, just biting the bullet and deciding to carry on. But that was what broke. In the end, it was his run to bring on home that 3rd place. It resulted in that drive-through penalty. As we come back to your live racing, a lot long left in the race distance now for all of our drivers out there. Only a few more laps on what is the counter. 48 in total there'll be over the course of this hour, and Patrik Thomsen right now goes on to lap 45. So this one plus another 3, and right now the GTP leader absolutely looking comfortable, albeit a 2-second gap between himself and Austin William Campbell. They've been exchanging laps, and William Campbell faster than that last lap by 2 tenths. But right now, as much he huffs and puffs, he's going to need, I think, a little bit of an intervention or traffic to help out here, because it does seem as though for everything that William Campbell can do, Thomsen can just about match it or keep it at arm's length. But again, it's been another instance where we have seen Austin William Campbell close the gap to Patrik Thomsen and keeping under that pressure over the entire race distance. We saw that, of course, at Imola only a few weeks ago, and we're seeing it here again today at Laguna Seca. Of course, we didn't have was Patrik Thomsen at Monza, and Austin William Campbell still had a lot of pressure from everybody around him where he could take that victory. But here, in a straight up fight between the two, with all the intervening traffic, William Campbell has led quite a few laps, but Patrik Thomsen has just found a way to inch him out by a very slender margin. And we say slender because 2 seconds is not that long a distance when it comes to circuits like this, and particularly it only takes one car to be in the right or the wrong place at a certain time in order to see that gap suddenly expand outwards or contract inwards at a very rapid rate of knots. Well, as all drivers make the way on through, well, right now, are there any other battles that are close together? Kasper Bröckner still chasing down St. Anthony, and, well, the last couple of laps have been going what is the way of Bröckner over Anthony. Again, just closing up by 2 tenths a lap, but every time he gets close, it does seem as though the old dudes in cars at Mustang just does not want to run that dirty air of that Porsche and starts to just understeer slightly wide. And, well, you can imagine the left front tyre there taking the biggest beating of them all. Given the way this circuit does run anti-clockwise, it does have a lot of left-handers, so the front right tyre you would imagine would take the bigger wear. But, well, with what is the stresses on the car, they've probably changed the right hand side tyres in the pit lane, but they've left the left hand side tyres alone. That front left now are really undermining the balance of the car, and keep in mind it's front engine rear drive as well, so the weight is more towards the front of the car, so therefore the front tyres will be taking a bit of more wear compared to, say, the likes of the Porsche 992, which puts everything on the rear tyres, and therefore that tyre wear distribution are really now making it challenging under heavy braking for the Ford Mustang. But St. Anthony also got to be wary of the fact those rear tyres, every time he lights them up, particularly the rear left, it will feel a little bit sensitive, and he's got to make sure that steering is absolutely straight, as otherwise this car could keep him around. But the Dragon Razor driver from Wales right now only at 7 tenths ahead, but it's a gap he's managing, and he's managing it well. As they exit the last corner to go on to what will be most likely another 2 laps of racing for them, while racer leader carries his way on down. And, well, for Patrik Thomsen, it's definitely looking to head closer and closer towards victory at this point. We're 2.5 second gap to Austin William Campbell. You can see that in the rear of the picture, the BMW M V8 hybrid driver for Effect Simulation still pushing onwards, albeit that last lap he was the best part of 8 tenths slower compared to the previous lap where he was 2 tenths faster, but he takes a bit of a run wide there out of turn number 3. But the 905 driver, I think at this point exhaustion is going to be kicking in. I think for both of them, and they kept each other honest all the way over the race distance. And I wouldn't be surprised right now if William Campbell is potentially thinking, you know what, it might be the time to throw in the towel, albeit he won't want to when he does see traffic moments like this for Thomsen, who finds what is the car, I believe that's James Conley, going wide out of turn number 6, and Maltrek immediately steps aside, and William Campbell here comes diving up the inside into the Corkscrew chicane. My good lord, the brakes have still got some life in them, certainly, as he made his way on through, but you can understand why, because I think William Campbell wants to stay within a second if he can, but if any traffic does interfere with Patrik Thomsen's race, and William Campbell there daring and darting to the inside into the Corkscrew. Maltrek seeing it coming from a mile away and says, I don't want to be any part of it, because he just wants to bring home his GT3 Pro victory. But onto the final lap they go then, ladies and gentlemen, and it's Thomsen leading by 1 second in the GTP category over Austin William Campbell. Over the crest and down they go for turns 1 and 2. The gap is a second at the starter lap. Will it be closer or will it be further at the end of it? Well, that's anybody's guess, because these two are absolutely pushing each other to the limit. Further around the circuit, we still have this battle for what is second place in the GT3 AM class of Hughes versus Windsor, albeit this is Hughes over the back of GT3 Pro driver Darren Sharples. I think trying to get Sharples to get the move on because of the fact he is right now losing some race time, with Windsor closing very rapidly, and they'll have to sort that out over the next lap. And we also do have Tom Farr being chased by Ben Cullen for third place in the LMP2 class, and Cullen's close, but is he close enough to potentially find a move? Well, we'll see as this lap comes towards its end. This will be their final turn of the circuit, we do believe, where the leaders are already up towards the Corkscrew chicane, and well, coming back to those leaders, well, Thomsen right now, 7.5 attempts is the gap, and William Campbell has closed up a little bit more. They did find a bit of traffic over the rise of what's the Rahul Straight, as they make their way down through Rainy Curve, traffic coming in front of them again, albeit space being given there to Thomsen, and well, run on through. William Campbell makes his way into the final corner. Thomsen still leads, and as they make the way on out then to complete an hour race near at Laguna Seca, it was a close run, but for Patrik Thomsen, he returns to victory just by 9/10 over Austin William Campbell overall in the GTP category. You've then got a sizable gap to John Williams, who'll be the best part of 43 seconds behind, but with that, Christian Maltrek comes to line. He's jubilant because he's just taken his first victory of the season, and what a drive from him, a brilliant drive, no doubt about it. And well, as he crosses the line, we've also got more to come, of course, ladies and gentlemen. Cy Anthony was your runner-up in the GT3 Pro class, with Kasper Brøckner right behind him at the close. And then we do have what will be very shortly, I believe, in fact, you've already had your winner in the LMP2 class come through. No, you haven't, in fact. You've had your third place finisher. Tom Farr held on there, but he's still got some more drives to make the rounds and get to the end of their race. But here comes Øystein Herfjord then, and after what was victory at Monza, where it was James Ibram absolutely dominated qualifying, but Øystein Herfjord got it done when it mattered most, and it was to take victory in the LMP2 class then for Effect Simulations. It's a 1-2 for the team, but James Ibram at 9, it's a second place today, and Satinder Dinsa on home soil will take GT3 and victory in the end in an absolutely solid strategic drive. He didn't put a foot wrong today, and whilst Edmondson may have been the faster driver, and indeed many around him may have been equal to him on pace, he absolutely got it done by being cool, calm and consistent under the Californian sun. Steve Hughes took runner-up in the GT3 AM class, and Rob Windsor in the end rounding off the GT3 AM podium there, just missing out by half a second at the close. Also, we have to give a special mention to Tom Farr, who took third place in the LMP2 class by only, 600ths at the line over Ben Cullen, who was absolutely glued to the back of him coming out the final quarter. And, well, in the end, ladies and gentlemen, that is how it's all concluded here at the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca. But my goodness, you know what? It's not too bad here at this circuit for an old dry lake, which is what Laguna Seca translates to, I do believe. But with that, as our drivers make their way into the pit lane, well, let's walk you through those race results, subject to any steward inquiries. And, well, as we do see there, Øystein Herfjord and James Ibram coming on through. Those results are going to be here shortly, and it's a 1-2 for the team. But Herfjord definitely getting his championship charge right back on parity with Ibram. And, well, with only what is 3 rounds to go, that LMP2 championship is going to be extremely tight, as it is going to be in the GT3 AM category as well, as Dinsa makes his way to the pit lane. And, well, there's going to be a big smile on his face, no doubt about it, for the simple reason his first win of the season, and well, absolutely on top form. And it brings him right in time. Edmondson will have wanted to have made a load of ground today on James Foster, who wasn't on the grid, but that ground has not been forthcoming, and therefore Edmondson having to settle for his 4th place. Well, Dinsa right now, he won't be thinking about that championship. He'll just be thinking about being happy. And, well, as he does some donuts there for everybody's pleasure, but not for the pleasure of what is those Michelin tyres. They're going to be absolutely ruined. We make sure not to put the car into the wall there, because otherwise team principal Greg Zinhe would not be too pleased with regards to the fact that'll be another Porsche that's going to come out the Tiki budget. Well, he's celebrating, and let's bring those race results up on the screen, ladies and gentlemen, as one man is very happy to have taken his first win of the season. And I do believe, but I'm sure he'll correct me, is that his first first win in the multi-class league in his history of competing in it. May be indeed. Well, I'm not quite sure, but he's in the chat. I'm sure he'll confirm if I've got that right or got it wrong. But here are the results then, ladies and gentlemen. And, well, after what was an absolutely brilliant 60 minutes of racing in the end, we saw Patrik Thomsen take victory overall and in the GTP category for Williams Sim Racing Academy here at Laguna Seca by only 9 attempts at line over Effect Simulations Club Sports Austin William Campbell. John Williams, in the end, and taking what was third place, and well, with that, the Cadillac driver enjoying a strong run, and really in the end, and a bit of a race of his own in that third place finish ahead of Nathan Foster, who was a lap down and really kicked off the second half of the GTP field. The Empire Motorsport driver holding off Andreas Nordenhoff for Olympus Esports, and then we did come to the LMP2 field, and we did see there was Øystein Herfjord take victory for Effect Simulations Carbon over James Ibram, and well, seeing there, James Ibram saying that interestingly, both drivers, himself and Herfjord, both claiming 30 points, and well, that will be for the fastest lap and also the pole position. So therefore, it will be Ibram still holding on to his championship lead, but Herfjord definitely putting the marker down in order to get nice and close. But with all the drivers running so closely there, well, let's not forget Ryan Davis, who also played a factor over the course of the racing for Empire Motorsport. And it was Tom Farr who rounded off the LMP2 podium for DDK Racing Team 2 laps down, just ahead of Ben Cullen at the line. And we'll talk about their gap in a moment with the Effect Simulations drive just missing out on the LMP2 podium. Outside the top 10, it was Emil Koopmans as best of the rest, but we must come on to was the GT3 drivers and Christian Maltrek. 14th, in fact 15th overall, but a victory there in the GT3 Pro category, and he'll be absolutely pleased with that. His first win of the season, and what a drive there. Could not put a foot wrong today in qualifying or the race, and the number 4, smiling bright there, head of Sight Anthony for Dragon Rezio, who did everything to hold off Kasper Brøckner, and Brøckner just missing out on second place in the GT Pro category and overall in the GT3s, but the old dudes in cars drive won't be too upset about a podium, because it still means he can maintain a consistent foundation in his championship lead. Jack Barker, 4th place in the GT3 Pro class in, wasn't on the pace of the top 3, but still the made for racing an Acura NSX Evo, enjoying an absolutely solid run there. And from him, it was then your GT3 AM winner of Satinder Dienser, the Tiki Sim Sport driver, 19th overall. But for him, the one thing that mattered most is adding his second multi-class GT3 victory to the tally, his first being in what was the Fuji race in the first multi-class season, as he's corrected us in the YouTube chat there. Appreciate that's Tinder, and the fact that sometimes we do get a little bit forgetful here in the commentary booth. But coming from our top 20 overall then, we'll just continue on our podium finishers of the GT3 AM class, and we do see Steve Hughes there, runner-up in GT3 AM for Anti Sports, ahead of UK Sim Racing Irvine's Rob Windsor there, and close between them as well. Commiserations, of course, to a number of drivers who unfortunately did have to retire or finish multiple laps down over the race distance, including Simon Bamber, Helder Gonçalves, Justus Stakiokas, and also there we did see the early retirements for our GT3 drivers Daniel Pace and Sean Cranley-Swash. But coming on to the individual class finishing positions then, and we can see here Patrik Thomsen, your winner for Williams Sim Racing Academy by the best part of less than a second over Effect Simulations Club Sports Austin William Campbell. Then it was John Williams, the best part of was a further 43 seconds behind there, but still on the lead lap for Effect Simulations in a 909 Cadillac, and a lap down to Nathan Foster, as it was also for Andreas Nordenhoff and Ryan Davies, with 4 laps down, but still a finisher. Amit Rajic Ghosh bring that Ferrari home in a challenging day today, but very happy to see him making it to the checker flag. Coming to the LMP2 class, where all the fireworks kicked off, no doubt about it, and Øystein Herfjord in the end surviving all the chaos and craziness to take victory only by 2.2 seconds for Effect Simulations Carbon over his Club Sport sister team driver of James Ibram, and will Ibram matching Herfjord's score today with the fastest lap and pole position, but what a run between the two, and in the end, it all came down to slender margins, but Herfjord making it back-to-back wins. Tom Farr, 3rd place there, a lap down for DDK Racing Team, but he won't be upset about that. He's made it to the podium, and the 171 drive held off Ben Cullen at the line. Unfortunately, we can't get that gap on screen there, but I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, as we do look back, the gap was sub 600ths of a second. I believe it was 55 thousandths at the line between the two of them. It could not have been closer. And Emil Koopmans, meanwhile, you've got to feel for the Effect Simulations Club Sport driver coming into this round with a points penalty and a 5th place stay. Things just did not go forward the way he wanted them to. Jarrett Lee as well, a late instant cost him what was a drive-through penalty, 6th place in when it could have been a podium, but he put on some brilliant racing, as did James Ackland, the private who finished 7th. Now Simon Bamber, 10 laps down there with a late retirement for Effect Simulations Carbon, and we also did see retirements of Helder Gonçalves and Justus Stakiokas. From the Tractics Racing Over Limit Racing drives, we wrap up LMP2 and come to the first of our GT3 categories. And for GT3 Pro, it was Christian Maltrek who took a victory there, the privateer, by 8.4 seconds over Dragon Razor Cy Anthony. But look at that gap in the end between Anthony and Bröckner, with Kasper Bröckner only half a second behind for Old Dudes in Cars and keeping Cy Anthony honest every step of the way in the closing laps there. And while the Porsches were the strongest over the race distance, but that Ford Mustang was no slouch. Jack Barker, fourth there for Made for Racing, was the best part of a further 13 seconds behind. But he said coming into this round that he was expecting not to be quite on the pace of the top three. But still, he's finished in fourth, just off the podium, and another solid set of points ahead of Nathan Anstis, a further 22 seconds behind for UK Sim Racing Irvine. There was Old Dudes in Cars, Darren Sharples, who was the last of the GT3 Pro finishers, with Sean Cranley Swash in the end an early retirement for the Ansi Sports driver after a great qualifying session, but it all went to the wall way too soon. In the GT3 AM class, last but not least then, well, as we can see here, Satinder Dienser, your winner for Tiki Sim Sport by 5.7 seconds over Ansi Sports' Steve Hughes. And, well, whilst it was Matt Edmondson was the fastest driver here, in the end it didn't quite work out for Edmondson, but for Dienser, sometimes to win, well, as they say, to finish first you must finish, and that's exactly what Dienser did, with Hughes and Windsor enjoying a brilliant battle for second. It was the Ansi Sports driver in the end who brought home a superb second place spot on the podium, ahead of Rob Windsor, who returns to podium finishing form there with that third place. From the UK Sim Racing Irvine drive, it was UK Sim Racing Buttons Matt Edmondson a lap down, and also the same there for John Davis for the wrong stuff, but what a brilliant day for John Davis to finish 5th place in class and enjoy some great battling along the way. UK Sim Racing Buttons James Connolly having a difficult day today with a front bumper that decided to go missing within the first couple of laps. They got it back on, and well, by then the damage had been done. Alex Brown finishing 2 laps down for Slow and Steady Racing, but still getting it to that checker flag, and that's what it's all about. And we did have the one unfortunate retiree for Old Dudes in Cars, and that was Daniel Pays, retiring the best part of what was 16 laps into the race. But that concludes our rundown of the results, ladies and gentlemen, and with that, it is now time, of course, just before we get ready for our post-round interviews, to now do what will be our giveaway draws. And, well, we do, of course, have plenty of draws to do, and we are going to be very shortly. I do believe we'll be able to get it up on screen, and there we go. And we are going to start off, of course, with what will be the 3-month subscription draw for the Virtual Racing School, and this will be drawn from all drivers who finished round 6 in the LMP2 class. Now, in terms of our finishers in that class, just to give you the recap of them, as we do just look to get what will be all those names on screen, and give us a brief moment, and we'll do exactly that once we get what is our information all together. Our LMP2 finishers today, well, we did have a number of them, but unfortunately Simon Bamber, Helder Gonzalez and Justus Stakiokas have ruled themselves out, given the fact they did retire from the race or finish so far down they would be unclassified. So therefore we will have the following names end up being into the raffle draw hat, and here they are on screen. And you can see it's James Ibram, Helder Gonzalez, Øystein Herfjord, Jarrett Lee, Emil Koopmans, Tom Farr and Ben Cullen. And let's spin the wheel and find out who will win that 3-month subscription draw. Here we go. And congratulations to James Ibram, who will take on home the 3-month subscription prize there. And well, we will be in touch with him in due course to confirm how you can redeem that. But now coming on to the 2-month draw. And this is for any driver in what is the GT3 classes, so GT3 AM or GT3 Pro and GTP, who finished this race today. And well, we're going to go through those. And in what was the GTP class, it was all of our drivers who made it to the checker flag. Well done to them all for doing so. In the GT3 Pro class, we do believe it was everybody excluding Sean Cranny Swash, who made it to what was the finish there. So we will put all the names in, minus Sean Cranny Swashes, and then we will be coming on to the GT3 AM class, and this was everybody excluding Daniel Pays. So therefore, well done to everyone who did make it to the checker flag. And well, without further ado, let's spin the wheel and find out who is your 2-month subscription winner for the VRS. And well, he may not have won the race today, but he wins by a slender margin in the raffle draw. It's Austin William Campbell who'll be taking home a 2-month subscription prize from the Virtual Racing School. And congratulations to Austin. And then last but not least, of course, ladies and gentlemen, we do have what is our 1-month giveaway to do with regards to the VR subscription in the YouTube chat. So there's our entries. Let's choose a winner. And as we can see, it is Dan Sharples, or Darren Sharples, he's known for, who takes away what will be the 1-month subscription. And we'll be in touch with all 3 of our raffle prize winners to advise advise them of how they can claim it after today's broadcast. So congratulations to all of our winners. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, from winners out on circuit to winners in draws, we've still got plenty of winning moments to talk about, because we are now going to step away for a brief moment before we bring you our post-round interviews of our volunteer drivers. Don't go anywhere, because we will be back in approximately 7 to 8 minutes time for those. You won't want to miss them, and we will see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews. And well, we have got 2 drivers lined up already. We are trying to see if we can get a third driver on here. We're trying to potentially get Christian Maltrek in, given it's his first win in the GT3 Pro class this season. But speaking of first-time winners, we're going to jump straight to the man who took his first GT3 AM victory of the season. That'll be Satinder Dienza, and then we're going to be coming to a back-to-back winner in the LMP2 class, Øystein Herfjord. But without further ado, let's bring our GT3 AM winner into the interview room. Here he is now. It's none other than Satinder Dienza. Good evening to you, Satinder. And what a day from yourself. What a drive at Laguna Seca yesterday. I mean, you must be absolutely over the moon to take your first victory at a circuit that's quite close to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Paul. I think it was one of those where I came into the race seeing it was Laguna Seca and knowing that historically I've done very well here. So to actually be able to wrap it up with the win was really proud of that one.
Oh, most definitely. Proud you should be. And starting it off, of course, qualifying, it was close, but in the end, just missing out on pole position to what was Matt Edmondson. But I mean, you weren't far off. How was qualifying for you? Because it looked as though you were getting a lot out of the car that perhaps we haven't seen from you in the last couple of rounds.
I knew that the Porsche was really strong around here. It relies a lot on the turns and the fast corners. Um, I had learned about using the slip angle more to get more out of the car, but when it came to the actual qualifying lap, I didn't really get it hooked up together. I feel like I could have gotten on pole for sure, but within the 4 laps, it really didn't work out. Qualifying never really has been my strong suit, and I figured that maybe I could just take it back in the race, and thankfully it did work out for me that way.
Well, that's one way to look at it, and no doubt about it in the fact that qualifying is just one part of the story, albeit track position is important. But as we started the race, obviously, short circuit, multi-class racing, early on we didn't see too much progress from yourself. What we very quickly saw was traffic started to come up, and that's where you started to shine a bit. I get the feeling you'd been working on the idea that this circuit and this race wasn't just going to be about who could be the fastest, but also who could be the best at negotiating the traffic.
I would say you nailed it right on the head. I came into this race knowing that traffic management would be the key to success. The pace was there. I was on track with everybody else. That wasn't really the issue. I just knew that letting the faster cars through on the corners that mattered, taking advantage of it, and actually managing the traffic management would be the most important part. I tried to keep that gap to P2 behind because I knew that just being in clean air would help me tremendously of not falling back versus when you get, 2, 3 GT3 cars backed up in a row and you have a row of prototypes coming through, you lose a lot of time doing that.
And speaking of bouncing that traffic, I appreciate the insights there in terms of being aware of what's behind, but also in front, not just in terms of traffic, but also your class rivals. The circuit, not just tricky for traffic, but also tricky on tyres potentially. Had you set up your strategy in a particular way to potentially offset that or the fuel situation?
Yeah, so I knew I was using a lot of fuel, and I was also burning through tires. When I looked at the actual tire data in the pit stop, I was shocked at how much I had actually used. But at the same time, you can feel that grip going away. It was a very hot circuit. The cloud cover kind of kept it from getting too hot, but I was chewing through the tires like crazy. Turn 5, turn 6, you really feel it there. And when I came out of the pit stop, I knew that I had wasted about an extra 1.5 to 2 seconds changing all 4 tires, but I knew that I had just enough gap, and I prioritized the safety of not, losing it with over those saving 1 or 2 seconds in the pit stop. I figured play the safe bet, change all 4 tires, and hopefully cruise rather than struggling with the tires right at the very end.
Well, definitely a smart call and strategy. Although I have to ask, when you came out the pit lane and you saw Matt Edmondson just literally about a second and a half up the road from you, was there a part of you that said, perhaps I shouldn't have changed the tyres? Where you sort of know we're going to get him over the distance no matter what happens?
So I was extremely confused, to be honest. The first thing that went through my head was, wow, he just pulled off the most amazing undercut strategy I've ever seen in my life. The second thought was, what did I do wrong to make this happen? The pit entry is extremely tricky. I didn't do too great there. I knew I changed all 4 tires. I took just a little bit of extra fuel, and I was like, "There's no way that makes that much of a difference." But then, and I was on the radio with my team saying, "What's going on here?" And that's when I realized he was on an offset pit strategy. So that made it a little bit easier to understand.
I can imagine there the panic or the worry or the frustration, all three emotions in a way, all boiling together, like
Yep.
you say, you're trying to understand, and then, well, getting calmed down by the team and then getting back to work. And it didn't take long before you found yourself in the lead once again. Just take us through that sort of seesaw motion of feelings. At one point thinking, what have I done wrong? And then suddenly it all goes wrong for Matt and it all goes right for you.
I think the biggest thing was just the confusion, right? I was so wondering what I did wrong. I did everything I planned and tried to prep for it. So to see him come in and pit and realize that I was in fact in the lead there, that's kind of when my I was able to just focus, get my head down, and just say, hey, keep the pace, keep the gap, and just bring it home.
And, well, as time went on, you did exactly that. Didn't make any mistakes from that point onwards, at least none that we saw on screen, and you brought it on home. And it's been quite some time since we've seen you take victory in your class, whether it be in the GT3 League or the Multiclass League. But this one, I can imagine, must have felt quite special.
It's good to come back and say, I still got it. That's a big one. But at the same time, the last race, I held P2, lost it at the end. Back at Imola, P4. I knew it was there. It's just a matter of working with the traffic, and Laguna Seca, basically in my backyard. And it's a track that I do really well at. I knew that hopefully the pieces come together for me, and that's what ended up happening.
Well, everything came together at Laguna Seca, no doubt about it. But we still got some rounds left in the championship. You're running 7th currently, but with 3 rounds remaining, it's anybody's guess where you could finish, as it's still looking very tight all the way to the top. You're only 20 points off of championship leader Matt Edmondson. Have you set yourself any targets for the season?
Yeah, I don't want to get into that. Just focus each race by race. You never know what's going to happen. But at the same time, it can go either way, right? So just looking at it, but also at the same time, just focusing race by race.
Oh, that's absolutely fair. I won't probe you any further on that, but I will ask. We head to Road Atlanta next weekend. A roller coaster ride of a circuit. Will it be a roller coaster ride of emotions for you?
Road Atlanta is unbelievably tough, right? Traffic management here is super important. It's going to be even more important over there. Sector 1 is impossible to overtake through the S's. The long back straight, cars like to go 2, 3, 4 wide with the prototype, so you don't want to get clobbered. So just same strategy, I have good pace there. Just keep it clean and let the traffic through, and hopefully it comes to you.
Well, we look forward to plenty from yourself at Road Atlanta, and hope for you that it all works out like it did today. But just before I do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, absolutely. The team's been super great, helping with strategy, keeping me motivated. It really does help a lot, knowing who to go to for insight, knowing that they're there to support. That's definitely a big one. So definitely thank you to the Tiki team.
Well, Satinder, we'll leave it there. Thank you for joining me in the interview room this evening, and congratulations once again on a brilliant drive to victory. Your first of the season, and perhaps it opens the floodgates for more before the season is done and dusted. We look forward to seeing whether you can make it happen again at Road Atlanta in a week's time. But until then, thank you for joining me, and have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Paul. Appreciate it.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from the man today in his own backyard, taking victory in the Porsche 992 GT3, and that was your AM winner, Satinder Deenser. And I do love the way he really broke it down here, knowing that this was going to be a race where it wasn't about being the fastest guy over a single lap, it was about staying out the trouble. And from the outset, recognising that qualifying didn't go quite right, but it has been a weakness, and a lot of drivers talk about qualifying being a weakness, but we have seen the Tiki Sim Sport driver be close, but not quite there, whether it was at Imola or Monza, and now here. But the difference here today is it was almost as if he'd planned it all out to an absolutely perfect degree in terms of knowing, okay, when's that traffic going to come up in terms of the GTPs and the prototypes, and knowing then when best to really start thinking about not chasing Matt Edmondson, as we do see in the pictures here, but instead of focusing on running his own race, running his own strategy. And, well, a little bit of a surprise when he did see how offset Edmondson's strategy was, but in the end, even with that surprise, the team got him to calm down, got him to focus on being behind the wheel and just keep him pumping out those laps, and in the end, that's exactly what he needed to do to take victory. And, well, looking forward to Road Atlanta, but knowing that the multi-class change that's going to await in there is going to be even tougher than it was at Laguna Seca. But can he make it another win? Because he was denied at Monza that second place, but he's not been denied today, and will he be able to prevent being denied another time? Well, we definitely look forward to seeing it. But with that, ladies and gents, we now come to what is our second interviewee, and very pleased to say we've also got a third interviewee lined up. We're going to be hearing from our GT3 PRO winner in a short while, and that will be Christian Maltrek, the privateer. But before we get to him, well, we do, of course, need to go through what is our LMP2 winner. And without further ado, we are going to be hearing from Øystein Herfjord, and, well, hearing his thoughts on back-to-back victories very shortly, as he does get ready to join me in the interview room. And, well, not just going to talk to him about that, but also his back-and-forth battle with what is James Ibram, as he does join me now. Well, good evening to you, Øystein, and well, it's been a little bit of a time since we last spoke to you, but speaking to you again on happy terms today. A victory at Laguna Seca. I mean, as far as they come, any victory in multiclass racing feels special, but I can imagine, given how close, how tense, and how tight it was around the circuit, this one will feel pretty special in its own right.
Yeah, absolutely. Was a good race. Obviously, it's difficult with James on the track. You know, he's been so quick all season, and difficult to out qualify him. I think I've done it once, but no, it was good, very good.
Well, most definitely. And when you can beat somebody of the caliber as your teammate of James, you must have done something special here today. And talking about difficulties, putting your teammate aside, difficulties in qualifying by looks of things, in the end, what was 4th place in class, 8th on the grid, something tells me perhaps there was still some time left on the table.
Yeah, I had a really good lap 4 there, but I off-tracked the second to last corner. Which was a couple of tenths up. I can't really remember how good it was, but around 15.3.4 maybe. So it would have been slightly higher up, which would have made it easier. But I think overall I off-tracked 3 or 4 laps on the qualifying there, so not ideal. You know.
Well, indeed, not ideal to make those off tracks, but then again, when the track limits are so narrow around here, it's easy, even for the best out there, to make mistakes, like you've mentioned. And now coming into the race itself, it seemed as though, at least before the pit stops, the race wasn't about chasing down James. It was about you just trying to keep Helder Gonzalez and what was Jarrett Lee behind you, because we've seen plenty of pictures right now, the 3 of you running so close. I mean, you couldn't even fit a 30-centimetre ruler between the cars.
Yeah, no, that was really tight. I think the pace was sort of similar as well, but I got lucky with the where I think was it Helder that had a slight incident where both me and what's his name again, Jarrett, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, Jarrett had we came past him and he sort of hung on to us, and then later on we had a pass through traffic where I sort of just got lucky basically on the exit there, and then I managed to make a slight gap, and then yeah, as you said at the pit stop, I think it was completely random, but because I just went in because there was GT3s in front, and then I think I had 8 or 9 laps in free air after the pit stop, which made it easier to be like consistently fast over a couple of laps there, and that's probably why I catch James in the end.
Oh, most definitely, I would say so. And just on that then, so was there any call as to coming in, or was it just simply seeing how much traffic was in front of you, you had that gut instinct take over and say, you know what, I'm not dealing with this anymore, I've got to try and find some air at least, given the fact I'm just finding traffic all the time?
Yeah, it's sort of like that, because I saw I had 4 GT3s like 3-4 seconds up the road, which is not going to be ideal for the next lap, so I just went in, and I think the timing on that was perfect. So I wouldn't say instinct, more like it was pure luck, honestly.
Well, a bit of fortune never goes astray. They do say that with every victory, there is always a degree of luck, and indeed every drive has to have its own respective ups and downs. But for yourself, and after the pit stop, luck permitting, it looked as though it was a relatively smooth run, and you caught up to James quite rapidly. You were chasing him, and it all goes wrong for him, but it goes right for you at the close.
Yeah, it did, and it was nice to get a result from that, because I did actually practice quite a bit for this one. Not the track I've driven the most. I'm also quite new to the car, so it's so it was good to like consistently have fast laps as well, which was nice. Like I have had decent results earlier this season, but this one I felt like I sort of prepared myself into, which was nice to get some results from the practices.
Oh, most definitely. And well, there's always that rewarding feeling, like you say, when all that practice pays off. And coming to the thoughts of the championship, we've still got 3 rounds to go. It's 4 points between the two of you in the LMP2 championship, with James leading. And then you've got a sizable gap to Ben Cullen, who's running in third. But we've got all 3 Effect Simulations teams now in the 1, 2, 3 positions. Do you think you can close James down with 3 rounds remaining?
If he gets unlucky somewhere, maybe. Because like I said in the beginning, he has well, more talent or more pace rather. So it's going to be difficult to snag that pole from him, and then he usually gets the fastest lap in the race as well. So if I win and he gets P2, then we're still going to end up with the same points. And if he beats me, then he's going to pull away quite a bit, right? So I think it might be difficult, but if he gets unlucky somewhere, then I mean, sure.
Well, you never know what can happen. And of course, we do have a circuit where anything can happen next weekend. It'll be Road Atlanta. Is it a circuit you normally enjoy?
Yeah, it's one of those tracks that I have driven like a lot of laps on in multiple cars. I guess most people have, but it's a really fun track. The first and second sector is a bit difficult, but then you get sort of a breather at the end there with the long straight. So it's a great track for multiclass too, which is going to be fun. So looking forward to it.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we look forward to you taking it to the circuit and trying to take the championship hunt to your rival stroke teammate. But just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Well, I have to give a shout out to Effect Simulations. Joined the team earlier this year, and it has been really fun. They always adapt to my schedule as well. Just become a dad, so time is more limited now. And yeah, my mom and dad as well. They always watch the broadcast, especially when you're broadcasting them. So have to say hi to them as well.
Well, a big hello there to what would be Mr. and Mrs. Herfjord, or senior, if you will, because, of course, speaking to a legend in a Mr. Herfjord in his own right. And, well, Øystein, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me this evening, and congratulations on making it 3 wins this evening, 2 back-to-back of which, and we look forward to plenty more 3 rounds to go. And whether you can take the fight or not to James, we will be absolutely excited to see you try at Road Atlanta. But until then, have a great rest of your evening, and thank you once again.
Yeah, cheers, Paul.
So there was Øystein Herfjord, ladies and gents. When the Effect Simulations carbon driver, always honest, I must admit about it, it's the one of his absolutely brilliant qualities, is the fact he does try to see things always in perspective. And talking about today, the fact that with what was a very tight circuit, and one where the thresholds and the margins for mistakes were going to be incredibly tight, the practice had to be put in. The practice definitely was put in, albeit in qualifying it didn't seem to pay off, with only a 4th place in class, and that all being down to the fact that whilst he had a brilliant lap lined up in his 4th flying lap, there was an off track that crept in, and that's what stopped it from being registered as a lap that could take him to the grid. So in the end he had to do it the hard way, and that was picking his way through the field. Did so relatively early on, albeit found himself locking horns with both Jarrett Lee and Helder Gonzalez, and it was all coming to what was the pit stop strategy, where we really did see things come alive for Øystein Herfjord. In the end, able to leap his way forward, and well, in doing so, then got closer to the back of James Ibram. Subsequently, it didn't go quite right for his teammate stroke rival, but it went right for our 907 driver, as we do see him there having a bit of a moment with Alex Brown's GT3 machine. But the point being that with all these drivers absolutely giving it their all, well, in the end, it was all about just as much survival as it was about outright pace, and Øystein Herfjord being the one to survive the race distance the best. Now, equal wins versus James Ibram, I do believe. Both drivers having 3 wins apiece, in fact. And, well, as a result now, it's going to come down to what will be those bonus points and those drop scores. And he was mentioning there about the fact that Ibram picking up, much like today, what has been at the fastest laps throughout the season and also the pole position laps, and that could be the difference. But for Øystein Herfjord, he's not going to give up until the very end, but I can imagine that James will be just as eager to make sure that he can't quite dig his hooks in at that championship crown unless James has an absolute nightmare day. But you never know what can happen, and that said, we've got Road Atlanta in a week's time, and anything can happen there. But then coming to what is our final interview, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be speaking now to Christian Maltrek, the privateer, our GT3 Pro winner, and well, let's get him in very shortly. In fact, he's already ready. Let's bring him on in now. And good evening to you, Christian. And well, a first-time win of the season at arguably one of the hardest circuits on the calendar, and for the GT3 Pro class, you were absolutely unstoppable at the circuit. How do you feel?
Thank you very much. I mean, to be honest, I didn't really expect that. I enjoy the driving. I enjoy the community and these races. I didn't really feel comfortable before this race. Even I tried one official race, and to be honest, didn't really end up well. So I didn't really expect a lot, and it surprised me already on the qualifying that I could be on pole for the first time. And then I was trying just to stay away of the trouble and keep the first place as long as I could.
Well, that's absolutely fair. And if you surprised yourself a little bit, you definitely surprised us the way, because you've been close to pole position a couple of times this season, but you've never quite had it. What do you think's made the difference here at Laguna Seca? Is it the track? Is it the car? Or did everything just seem to happen today?
I mean, I think the Laguna Seca really suits the Porsche car. That's the first thing. The second thing, that I was quite relaxed. I tried the qualifying a little bit later, so I could see the times before I entered the final and pre-final lap. So yeah, I felt that I can do it. I'm close, and I felt that I have some space, like time space, in the previous laps. So and try to use it. So and just work out.
Well, it definitely worked out there to enable you to take that pole position. And then going into the race, of course, there was quite a gap in terms of the starts between the prototypes and the GT3s. We saw yourself start midway around the lap, so it must have felt as though it was a little bit of a sprint to start the race before you even saw what was the green flag.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to keep quite a big distance between the LMP2 cars and us, because, as I said, from the experience from the officials, there were quite a lot complications and crashes in the different categories. So I tried to avoid it, but it didn't really hit the green flag in the best spot. I mean, the left hander, the fast one, was not the best place. But I'm happy that everybody survived there, that I hope, and we could have a really nice race.
Well, it definitely was a good one. And over the distance, we saw you just very gradually pull away, not by huge margins, but enough to feel safe. Was there any particular strategy in mind, or was it just simply try and get away and just then pit when you felt it was the right time?
I was trying to push, but push in a way that didn't want to make a stupid mistake to hit some big curve or anything that would destroy my race. But I was trying to keep the distance as big as possible. And when I felt that I can push more and try to have a bigger gap, I went for it. The other thing is that I was trying to use the traffic as much as possible to let the faster cars the best possible spot to not to lose a lot of time. And the pit stop, to be honest, I'm not really good in the pit stops, so I lost the time there, and I felt that I have really a lot of time, quite a nice gap. But after the pit stop, I saw Silent Tony like 1.5 seconds behind me, and I knew that didn't really well as I expected.
Oh, I see. Well, pit stops may have been challenging, but you managed to get the pit stop done, and then over the remainder of the distance, it looked as though you were going to comfortably run away for the win. There was a 10-second gap come the checkered flag, so an absolutely well-deserved victory, no doubt about it. And I can imagine you must have been absolutely jumping up out and down in joy when you saw the checkered flag.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of laps when I knew that, okay, only I would say my mistake or some accident between the other cars, could take me from the victory. I really enjoyed the couple of laps, the last laps, and the last lap when we didn't really have traffic from the faster group. It was a great, and when I saw the checkered flag, I mean, the feeling, that I've done it. The first win is at home, and I was really happy.
Oh, fantastic to hear. And landing your first win, it does move you to 7th in the GT3 Pro Championship. A bit of a gap to the top 6, but still, you seem to be rising up the ranks. 3 rounds to go. Have you set yourself any targets for the remainder of the season?
I mean, as I said, I didn't really expect this one, and I really enjoyed the race. I'm enjoying every race with this community. That's the goal. That's the point. So I'm looking forward to every race that we have left. I hope we will fight for the top 3. I would say this is something that I would like to see.
Oh, we would definitely love to see it. And well, speaking of rounds that are coming, Road Atlanta is next. Is it a circuit that you enjoy?
Yeah, I kind of like it. I have some experience with GT3 there, so I hope that it will be another one that I will be able or try to fight for the podium.
Well, we look forward to seeing you try and chase the podium at Road Atlanta. But just before we let you go, Christian, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Of course, I would like to thank you, my team. Even when I drive for a privateer, I'm driving for a Fisher Motorsport, and they really support me in the best way that I could imagine. And also, I would like to thanks to the community that creates such a great championship series.
Well, Christian, we need to give you a big thank you as well for joining me in the interview room this evening. Congratulations once again on securing your first win of the season and doing it in almost perfect style with that pole position. Not quite the fastest lap, but still, I don't think you're going to be too upset about that. And we look forward to seeing plenty more from you at what is Road Atlanta in a week's time. But until then, have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Christian Maltrek. And, well, absolutely great to hear from the privateer and the GT Pro driver absolutely delivering a phenomenal result with what was that pole position, and we're absolutely pleased and perhaps surprised himself a little bit with that pole position. But then again, I don't think he's going to be too upset about some surprises, particularly when they're that positive. And then going into what was the race, talking about really the game being just pull some distance and then manage the race distance as he went all the way on through those 60 minutes. And talking about as well being aware of the traffic around him, knowing what's upcoming and behind him, and that playing an important part. A little bit there interesting with regards to what was the pit stop saying that the change in the pit stop and it not quite working out the way he wanted it to, but sometimes that's the way it goes, but it built up enough of a gap. I think he felt confident that he felt he was able to use all that time to his advantage, and that's exactly what he did. And welcome that checker flag. Talking about the last couple of laps, there was a big enough gap. Nobody was close enough to him in order to put pressure on, and the number 4 driver just able to take it easy to line. That's the best thing in the world when the only person who can put pressure on you is yourself right at the end of the race, and being able to enjoy that final run. His first victory of the season. And talking about his championship aspirations as well, looking to keep on chasing the top 3 in the GT3 Pro class. So whilst he may be a bit down on the points, he's not down on hopes and dreams, and that's what we love to hear from the GT3 Pro driver. And he's going to be one to watch out for, particularly at Road Atlanta in a week's time. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes all of our interviews for this evening. And, well, very pleased to have all 3 of our interview slots in the infield. And we started off with our GT3 AM winner for Satinder Diensa for Tiki Simsport. And when we came to our winner in the LMP2 class of Øystein Herfjord for Effect Simulations Carbon. And we just heard from our first time interviewee, GT3 Pro classes, Christian Maltrek in the GT3 Pro class, who took victory there. And the privateer 3 winners, 3 great interviews. And thank you to all 3 of our drivers for joining me for a post-round interview. But with that, of course, we now need to turn our attentions to the championship standings after what has been at 6 rounds of racing. These being provisional, subject to any stewards' inquiries from the racing at Laguna Seca. And starting with the GTP standings there. And Patrik Thomsen leads the way still by a slightly improved margin of 16 points now over Austin William Campbell. And while that championship seems to be moving more and more in the favour of the Williams Sim Racing Academy driver, albeit today we saw it was less than a second at the checkered flag, so Austin William Campbell is not giving up for Effect Simulations Club Sport. And meanwhile, John Williams now in third and seems to be in a little bit of a no man's land for third place, in the fact he's 7 points behind his teammate from the sister Effect Simulations team, but well clear of Empire Motorsports' Nathan Foster. But intriguingly, Andreas Nornov and Foster both share 78 points, but it's Foster ahead on result countback. And from the Olympus Esports driver in 5th, it's then Ryan Davies in 6th, as we do have that brilliant three-way fight to be just outside the top 3 places, and a further point to Joshua Wilson, who wasn't on the grid today for Effect Simulations, nor did we see Darren Norquette for Racing Forces. Ahmed Rajat Ghosh moves to 9th with some more points on the board. He's now on 72, just behind Norquette based on result countback, and it's Thomas Cope, not on the grid again today, who sits in 10th for Olympus Esports. The standings are completed by Ryan Moles, Matthew Sheraton, Joe Newman, Xander Hill, and Sam Sherwood. And as we come to the LMP2 class, well, here we can see the story right now is all about what is the run from James Ibram, who with what was not quite a win, but second place, plus also the fastest lap in qualifying and what was over the race distance, he's managed to mitigate the gains made by Øystein Herfjord and has made sure his lead stands at 4 points for the Effect Simulations Club Sport team. Meanwhile, the sister team's Carbon driver, well, he's still given the hunt there, as we heard from his post-round interview, and then it's Ben Cullen who holds on to third by a single point for Effect Simulations over Helder Gonçalves, and that fight for the third place spot right now is getting absolutely tight and tasty, because Tom Farr is behind the Tractix Racing driver by only 4 points, and the DDK Racing Team driver will be looking forward just as much as he'll be looking backwards, because Emil Koopmans is still there as well for Effect Simulations Club Sport. With that 4-point penalty was the round at Monza, costing him the right to be ahead of the DDK Racing Team driver, but it's anyone's guess out of the 4 drivers who is going to be finishing what will be third at the end of the season. We then do have was Ryan Walker in 7th, ahead of Simon Bamber, with James Acklam and Jarrett Lee completing the top 10, and then we do have Justus Stakiokas and John Eddowes completing the LMP2 standings. Then coming on to the GT3 Pro Class standings, and here we can see old dudes in cars, Kasper Bröckner leading the way by 7 points over Dragon Razio St. Anthony, and Bröckner once again today scoring a podium, albeit it becomes a drop score given the run of wins and seconds and thirds he's had, but Kasper Bröckner right now definitely does have a very good foundation for that championship crown, and it's for St. Anthony to try and find a way to put a dent in it. The Dragon Razio driver will also be aware of the fact that Jack Barker had a bit of an anonymous 4th place today for Metre Racing. Well, only 2 points is the difference, and should the weather conditions go the way for Barker, particularly at what will be at Road Atlanta our later rounds, where you can imagine the 163 driver will have a big grin on his face. He tries to chase his first win of the season, and then from them to Sean Cranny-Tross for Anti Sports. That premature retirement today really hurting him hard in the chase for third place, because he's only 4 points ahead now of old dudes in cars at Darren Sharples. Nathan Anstis sits in 6th place for UK Sim Racing Irvine, ahead of Christian Maltrek, whose win today catapults him into 7th. Head of WSR Esports is Eric Rozev, and it's DDK Racing Teams Tom Weston and Andy Archer for Atomic Esports who complete your top 10. Outside the top 10, let's not forget about them, Andrew Fairley, Jack Osborne and Matthew D.R. Morris. Then going to the G3 AM class, last but by no means least, Matt Edmondson leads, however, big damage has been done in that advantage. James Foster now sits only 4 points behind, albeit Foster wasn't on the grid today, and therefore the drop scores are becoming ever more prevalent. But with the back and forth, we can expect both drivers to be on the grid all the way to the conclusion now of the season, most likely, or the UK Sim Racing Button and the DCW Racing driver will know after Road Atlanta just how close they truly are, albeit we get the feeling it's going to be very tight. Rob Windsor as well, now in 3rd place, where 3rd place finished today, some good points on the board, and it moves him just a little bit closer to become a third party to that battle for the crown, ahead of Steve Hughes. And the anti-sports driver today, not quite able to pull off what was the victory, but still able to pull off an absolutely brilliant run, no doubt about it, with regards to also taking the fastest lap over the race distance for anti-sports and coming alive there in the Ford Mustang. 4th place for him, he's only 4 points ahead of James Connolly for UK Sim Racing Button, and it's a single point to Richard Jones of Slow and Steady Racing, who wasn't on the grid this round, but we'll likely see him back for the final 3 rounds of the championship, as he has now locked in his drop scores. So Tinder Dienser moves up to 7th with that victory, and now bringing him on 96 points. He's only 2 behind the top 6, and he's 6 ahead of John Davis there for the wrong stuff, with Simon Hartley and Daniel Page completing the top 10. And it's Alex Brown, Michael Meyer and Shaminda Dienser who complete the G3 AM standings. And then lastly, coming to the team standings, looking at the top 15, Effect Simulations Club Sport, they hold on to their advantage and hold on to first place by 17 points over Old Dudes in Cars, with the sister Effect Simulations team there in 3rd place. And right now, the bigger question is who's going to be the one to chase down Effect Simulations Club Sport out of Old Dudes in Cars or Effect Simulations, or will it be UK Sim Racing Irvine, who are only a further 6 points behind in 4th? It's then 184 points to UK Sim Racing Button, One ahead of Effect Simulations Carbon, and well from them, Anti Sports sitting 7th on 171 points, pulling away from Slow and Steady Racing. But no, they've got some work to do to chase into that top 5 fight. And then from SAS Racing, it is Empire Motorsport and DDK Racing Team who complete the top 10. In 11th, by the best part of 21 points behind, it's Tiki Simsport, with Dean's great results today and moving them forward. Olympus Esports fall to 12th by a single point, and it's DCW Racing, Dragon Razor, and Made for Racing who complete your team standings top 15. And from the 108 points of Made for Racing, we then do have in 16th place, albeit not shown on screen, the 8 points behind is Tractix Racing on 100, who will try to get back into the top 15 at Road Atlanta. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the UK sim racing community in terms of how you can be on the grid for either our ongoing or upcoming series or everything in between, or perhaps you just want to join what is one of the premier sim racing communities based in the United Kingdom but welcoming everybody from around the world, well, for all that and more, we do recommend you head to our official website. That's at uksimracing.co.uk, where you can find out all the latest information regarding our series and how to become part of the UK sim racing community. Alternatively, if you're more of a social media person, we do recommend you follow us on Twitter. That's at twitter.com/UKSimRacing_, where you can stay up to date with all the latest news and announcements at UK Sim Racing. But if you want to do neither, well, of course, you can also tune to these broadcasts on a weekly basis, and all you need to do is subscribe to this YouTube channel, alternatively to our Twitch channel, either one which you may be tuning on this evening. We'd also like to take a big moment and say a thank you to our title sponsor for this season, and that is the Virtual Racing School of the VRS, and their web address is vrs.racing. And established in 2016, the Virtual Racing School, VRS, aims to help sim racers get faster through the provision of top-tier software and hardware, which draws upon the knowledge and experience of both real-life racing drivers and sim racing professionals. A VRS subscription, extremely popular with sim racers around the world, provides an intuitive solution for combining data analysis and coaching, which may be used by racers at all levels to take their racing to the highest level. Meanwhile, the VRS Direct Force Pro line of wheelbases and pedals offers the cutting-edge in sim racing hardware, as used by more professional sim racers and real-life racing drivers than any other brand in the world, including the likes of Formula 1 sensation Oscar Piastri. So if you want to get faster, be sure to head to vrs.racing today to find out more. That web address again, vrs.racing. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we fast charged in into the final third of the season, and come next weekend on what will be Sunday, the 18th of May 2025, our drivers will be roaring their way around the American roller coaster ride of road racing in the US state of Georgia. It is none other than the Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta, but we will be bringing you all the racing action as if it were live on Monday, the 19th of May 2025, and another post-round broadcast. So until then, we'll thank you very much for tuning in here. We appreciate it at UK Sim Racing, and indeed, we have been the UKSR community. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britney Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.